Hot takes are everywhere, but they're often uninformed, and major news is biased. We've had enough of hot takes. We want informed takes. Join Kevin Briggins and Devin Smith as they have rational conversations about domestic politics, geopolitics, and military affairs. Things will get interesting as they bring in expert guests, even from across the aisle. Grab your favorite drink, get comfortable, and hop into the chat. It's time for Informed Takes.
Yo, welcome back, everybody. I am Kevin Briggins. He is Devin Smith, and we are glad that you guys are back with us again. Man, this has been a crazy week.
Yeah, bro. Oh man. Yeah, I'm just gonna say 2025 is saying hold my beer, man. It's just it's not to be outdone.
It is not. It is not. As you guys saw the thumbnail, we are going to be diving into the breakup of the century, between President Trump and Elon Musk, which we knew it was bound to happen. But, man, divorce is always hard.
It's always hard. It's hard on the kids, man.
It is.
Oh, my gosh. I actually, man, we'll get into this in a minute, but I didn't see it coming, man. I didn't see it coming. I should have seen it coming, but I didn't see it coming, man. I didn't see it coming.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna get into it, yeah. But it's only so long two alphas can coexist together. It's just something's bound to happen. Something is bound to happen where egos get in the way, and that's just what we finally saw. Yeah, and so it was embarrassing on one hand, because it is the president.
Yes,
but on the other hand, it was entertaining.
Yes. Hey, we got Krista. She said let's get into it.
Get into it. Stop.
She's like, let's get right to it.
Oh. Hey, yeah, but before we dive into it though, we gotta talk about, what are you drinking on? We gotta
man,
let the people know.
Gosh. Yeah, let me go first. Lord of mercy, definitely let me go first. Oh my gosh, man. So the only thing that I could possibly do to compete with this cat again. So we finally finished it. This is the Angostura White Oak, white rum from Trinidad. This is my mom's home country, gifted to me from my dad, shipped straight from Trinidad. And the only thing I could do to try to compete, man, look, it's just a cherry Coke Zero with this Trinidadian rum. I got a big square ice cube, whiskey cube, in a square glass. That is all I can do, man. I am ready. I am prepared to be knocked the heck out. I'm prepared. What you drinking, man?
Hey, man, what you got sounds really good. I'm gonna be honest, man. I'm a rum guy. So, but no, my bartender did not take tonight off. She's here tonight, and so she made.
Oh my gosh, bro.
Strawberry
to the camera.
It is a strawberry coconut margarita, and she's got the sugar on the rim, as you can see.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
My bartender is she came through tonight.
Man, she did, man. That's this man, Kevin 20, Devin 0.
Yeah. Hey, Theology Mom said, hey, it's a dude show. We got to talk about the liquor. Yeah, that's right. Do, but I don't know. This ain't too dude like.
I would say we're going to give you a pass because you had your bride, your woman made it for you.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. All right. Can't hate on that. Can't lose your man card for that. When your wife is bartending, man, that's. but Chris ain't letting you off that easy. She said that's a sissy drink, Kev.
I could say I could be like, hey, yeah, man, that's the wife. That's what the wife made, But at the same time, like, that's what I asked for.
Yeah. Yeah. But I ain't mad
Hey,
at you, bro. I ain't mad at you. When you got a mixologist living in your house, just go ahead and flex it, man. Just flex.
yeah, yeah. Because you saw what I sent you earlier.
Oh yeah.
That was just her drink for the night, and so
Oh snap! I thought that was your drink, man.
I knew you
So
thought it was gonna be. Nope, that was hers.
wow, I put respect.
Yeah,
I put respect on her name. On her name. Yes, she's the real MVP. She's the real MVP.
she is. She is. But let's get into this breakup, this divorce that happened this week, man. Let's
Yeah.
jump into it.
Let's jump into it, man. Yeah, I got a little surprise for y'all. Got a little surprise for y'all.
Oh, I don't even know about this.
Oh man, I have too much fun. They should have never given me AI. Hold up. Yeah, that this joint right here, y'all got to see.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Dude, that's hilarious. That is hilarious.
Oh,
I love the
man.
music and everything.
Yeah. They should have never gave me AI, man. They should have never gave me AI. We got super informed fighter, man. I'm thinking that anytime there's a big political dust up, especially during election season, super informed fighter is gonna be coming back. Oh, Claire said too much time on my hands. One of my problems is I don't have enough time, but when I get interested in something, I spend time that I don't have. So I got this done. I think I got this done literally 30 minutes before the show. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so you're right, man. Breakup of the century, man. And they did not waste. They didn't waste any time getting to fisticuffs. I mean, there was zero time wasted getting to fisticuffs.
No, and we knew this was going to happen. We should have talked about it last week because we should have saw it coming when we talked about Elon's criticism of the BBL. The big beautiful legislation.
Yep.
And we should have knew that Trump wasn't going to stay quiet and let Elon criticize his bill. It just wasn't going to happen. And so we didn't bring that up, but we should have really thought about it because that's really what set this off. And I don't think anybody's surprised that Trump fired back because Elon was critical of the bill, which he should have been,
Yeah.
So, so before we get into, are you on mom's side or dad's side? Are you team Trump on this or you team Elon?
Okay. I have to say that on this, as much as I do not like the pettiness, as much as I don't like the pettiness, man, I'm team Elon, man. I'm team Elon.
Okay.
I'm just
okay.
Hit him with the dragon punch, man. I'm team Elon, man. Team Ryu. I got the red bandana on. Dude, it is not a fix a deficit bill. It's a spending bill. I mean, that's basically what it is. The memes don't lie. Lie. We actually should have grabbed one of them because they took pictures. They got shots of Trump and Elon, or Trump and an interviewer, a journalist, in one of his interviews. And he's like, I got the plan to fix the deficit right here. And he hands him some papers, and the journalist looks at the papers and it says increased spending. That's what I mean. That if I'm Elon and I'm running Doge and I see this BBL, I'm like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? You went and made that thing. You made that thing big, but it is not beautiful. Okay.
Oh, and we got two Team Trumps in the chat.
Oh, snap. Team Trump. Look at these folks on Team Trump. Man. Oh, my goodness. We're going to have to ask him.
It's one of those. So for me, on principle, I'm Team Elon because we do have to cut spending. And that's what Doge was there to do. And that's not what we did. But at the same time, politically, I do understand the position Trump is in. Is he wouldn't have never got a bill passed with $2 trillion in cuts in it. But at the same time, it didn't have to be $2 trillion. It could have been some cut, like something. But an increased spending bill is not in line with what he ran on and what Doge was supposed to be doing. And so, what are we doing? Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. You said it right there. He ran on it. He did not run on increasing spending. He ran on cutting all the fat out the government. Just saying.
Yeah. And he could have, this is the thing. So you find this wasteful spending, right? USAID, this fraudulent stuff, all this crazy stuff. But they didn't take those as savings. They took it as, let's go spend that somewhere else.
Let's go spend it some more. Let's go spend it some more. And in my opinion, that might mean, yeah, hey, Elon went and balanced the budget, and Dad went out there and decided he was going to blow it all on a new Lexus. He said it's a December to remember.
Oh man, that's scary looking. I'm just gonna be honest.
Yeah, yeah. Listen, y'all should have never. You should have never gave us AI, man. Y'all should have never gave us AI. I didn't do this one. This one wasn't me, but I'm not above it though. If I wish I had the idea.
Because back in the day, you had to be good and skilled with Photoshop. So you might have had the demented mind to think of something like this, but you didn't have the skills to do it. Now everybody has the skills.
Everybody can do it.
A prompt in Chat GPT. Yeah.
The funny thing for me is, I did wind up developing the skills to do it because I went to design school. So I literally used to get paid to do photo manipulation. I get paid by big companies to make people look skinnier, to put another phone in their hand. I changed people's faces. I mean, I was good at it, but it took hours and hours and hours and hours. And now, man, you could have Trump versus Elon. I mean, you could have Trump versus Elon in like 30 seconds. Come on.
That is true.
I can't.
That is true. We got another Team Trump in the chat, man.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
Nobody's Elon. That's interesting. That is interesting. Man, we are on the wrong side of history, man.
Man, seriously, yeah. The audience is heavily Team Trump over here. Krista says something very interesting though. She says, I do have a concern with the whole parents fighting analogy. Some people really see the government as analogous to their literal parents. I will say that is a problem with some folks. They do look at it like that. The reason, to be quite honest, the reason I can laugh at all of this is because two reasons. One, my faith is in Christ. Christ is still on the throne, even if the Oval Office is acting ratchet. Christ is still on the throne, so they can do whatever they want. I'm gonna be taken care of, whether in this life or the next. And then two, I definitely don't look at them as my parents. So I look at this stuff as just like, all right. I mean, keep acting up, y'all. Keep doing that. People gonna get tired of it.
Hey man, this crazy. I look at it like this. I'm black. I'm used to a single parent household.
Oh, be honest. Oh, no. Oh, there you go. Oh, man, we're going to get kicked off YouTube. We're going to get kicked off YouTube. We're going to get, cookout, invite, gone. There, gone. Oh, my goodness. But I will say that there are points on both sides of the argument. I've seen some Republicans Republicans comment and say, "Hey, this is we need to stop. We need to stop fighting. There's a lot of good stuff in this bill. Of course, Mike Johnson. Of course, that's what he's going to say. He's going to say, that Trump is right on the bill and we need the bill and all that stuff. And so there are good things in there. Defunding Planned Parenthood. I'm for it. Right?
Yes,
of course. But do we have to spend all this money as well? It's a part of Trump's thing.
I will say this. So I did listen to some people who was giving a different analysis of this bill, and they believe now it's predicated on certain things happening. But if this really jumpstarts the economy and we go on this boom, the way Trump sells everything that way, but the way that they are hoping that this ignites the economy, then the increase in revenue will reduce the deficit because there's this boom. That's what they're banking on. So the savings aren't built directly into the bill. It's not like, hey, this was our budget last year, we're cutting it down, this is our budget this year. That's not how they're approaching it. They're expecting an increase in revenue. And so that's what they're banking on, the deficit being brought down because of increase in revenue. We will see if that's the case.
I was going to say, I think you meant to spell it Betting. They betting. Clackety, clackety, clack. Wow. That's what they
Snake
do.
eyes.
They betting. They're going to get an increase in revenue, but Trump wanted a spending bill. Remember at the end of his presidency last time when they passed a $1 trillion bill, which he wanted. He said we needed another one. He wanted another $1 trillion bill to spend on infrastructure. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, he's showing he's not a Republican. He's not really a conservative. And he this is what he wanted. So I had high hopes, bro. When he implemented Doge, I said, he has repented. He has repented of his spending ways. And I was wrong. I was wrong, man. His repentance was not real. His confession was not credible. The session says that he is not a believer. He's not.
Wow. But man, so this was a thumbnail. We thought this was going to be the biggest story this week. We was like, man, we're going to talk about this. But the biggest story we really want to talk about is what's happening in LA. So let's dive into the details of this breakup, and then we can get on to the LA stuff.
Yes. So there has been some back and forth on X, as y'all might expect. And I'll say, Kev, you did say, we should have seen this coming when Elon criticized the bill. We should have seen it coming. And I saw his measured response, right? Elon's first response was a measured response, and he said he was disappointed. And to be honest with you, I don't think Trump was going to fire back at that. And when we had the show last week, that was the one that we showed. That was the kind of the pushback that Elon gave. But I think it was, I can't remember if it was that day or the next day, he went on X and went off. So I can't remember if we have that tweet in here. But
I just got his responses to Trump.
Yeah, he basically said, I can't stand it anymore. This bill is disgusting, yada, yada, yada. And when he did that, I was like, oh, yeah, this is going to go south real fast. Because there's no way Trump's not going to respond in kind to that.
And he did. So
yes, he did.
This was Donald Trump. Yep, he fired off these two tweets, or what's his Truth Social.
Yeah.
The easiest way to save money in our budget, billions and billions of dollars, is to terminate Elon's government subsidies and contracts. I was always surprised that Biden didn't do it. So that was his first kind of shot. And then he came back and said, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars that nobody else wanted, that he knew for months I was going to do. And he just went crazy. Now, I'm gonna be honest. I don't believe that.
No, I don't believe that for a second. Not for 1 second. That did not happen.
No.
Because Elon has been saying for years and years and years that they should do away with the subsidies. Like before there was even a mandate, which I can't even remember if there was really a mandate. I don't think that they really did a mandate per se, but they did. It was just shy of a mandate, I think. And before they even did that much, when they had the subsidies, Elon says, "No, I don't think the government should be subsidizing this." He said that well before before Trump was even a thought for a second term. I mean, like, yeah. So I think it was during Trump's might have been during Trump's first presidency, he said that the subsidy should have been gone. So I don't think this happened.
Yeah.
This is not real.
And I'll say this too about the contracts that Elon has. Like the work that Elon and SpaceX does for the government can't be replicated by anyone else. It's not like, we take him, we can just give it to Northrop Grumman or Boeing or something. They can't do what SpaceX can do.
No.
And so good luck. So it's either we contracted out to Elon or the federal government doesn't have the ability to do it. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. As much as Trump hates that, when they started going back and forth on Twitter, I knew that Elon was just like, "Come at me, bro. What you gonna do? I'm your only way to space."
Did you hear what Steve Bannon said in regard to that? He said that Trump should, I forgot which act he should invoke, and seize SpaceX, basically on some kind of defense act. Like it's so critical, we need it. We need to take it.
Steve Bannon. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
He's an authoritarian. I was like, this is nuts. This is completely nuts. And so that shows you how critical what Elon does for us, how critical it is, right? And so Trump can say that, we can cut his contracts out. You need it. You need Elon. You need SpaceX. You need what's the internet called? The satellite
Starlink
service. Starlink. Yeah. You need all of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so this was Trump being Trump. This is Trump acting out. This is Trump in his feelings. This is just Trump being what he is. And I knew once Elon started going off that he was going to come back and say something crazy like this.
Yes. Yeah. And Elon responded, of course.
Yep, he clapped back.
Oh, snap.
So Elon then responds with, "Time to drop the really big bomb. At real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT."
Well,
this caused a firestorm on X. Everybody was retweeting this, going, "Oh my goodness!" Like, and this one it really started to be like, "Oh my goodness, mom and dad are fighting."
Yeah. Yes. And I will say, okay, if we're judging which one we think is real or not, this one, I'm putting my money on this is real. Okay, I'm putting my money on this is real. Do I think that he was messing around with underage girls? No, I don't think that. Do I think that he was in the Epstein files? Yes, because he did wind up having contact with him. I think he did wind up riding on the jet at some point. I could be wrong, but I think he did. They did find on like flight records that Trump wound up being on the plane, but so far as I know, basically how it went down is Trump has been on the plane. He's never been to Epstein Island. Just being on the plane itself would put you in the Epstein files. Doesn't mean that you did anything. It means you're going to be in the files.
I mean, Tom Hanks is in the logs. I know that. Right. And so, all right. So I don't know if you heard Kash Patel's interview on Joe Rogan that just came out.
No.
So Kash Patel's director of the FBI, and they just so happened to be recording that when this tweet went out, when this fight started. And Joe Rogan was like, "Hey man, this just came out." And he read the tweet to Kash Patel. Because Kash Patel was talking about Epstein and all this stuff, right? And Kash was like, "Man, I'm not getting into that fight between them two." He did say, all I can say is that if there was incriminating evidence against someone, they would be brought to trial. Like, and so basically he was saying like he can't say whether Trump is in there or not, but there's no incriminating evidence and so he kind of squashed it, but he was like, I am not getting into that fight. I'm not going to speak on it.
Oh man, I can only imagine what his blood pressure must have looked like the moment that Rogan said that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's like, oh my goodness. He was just like, come on.
And this is Trump administration circa 2016 type drama. This is 2016 Trump administration drama right here.
But we were hoping not to have that this time, because the first time it was like he really didn't know what he was doing. He surrounded himself with a lot of traditional Republicans, and it was just a lot of headbutting because the things he was trying to do, it was a lot of internal kind of blocking what he was trying to do and stuff. And so this time it's like, no, he got his team together. It's supposed to be less of that. But man, egos are egos.
Yeah.
And so
that's right. Future. First of all, y'all say what's up to the best mod on the internet, Future.
Absolutely.
Future said, "Why is the acting director of the FBI going on Joe Rogan?" I'll say, I know this is a technicality. He's not just the acting director. He is the official, confirmed by the Senate director of the FBI. So he's official. But good question. Normally FBI directors don't go on Joe Rogan or podcasts like that. That's how they got elected. I don't expect them to stop doing it, really.
I will say, so he talked about it. He said he does one media thing a month. He said usually some 5-minute TV spot or news or something. So he does one a month. He did say this is the only long form podcast he will ever do. He just said, so it was a one-time thing, and everything else is going to be 5-minute news segments or something. So he basically gave Joe Rogan a kind of
exclusive.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Which I know the media probably is a little bit pissed about, because they normally get that. Yep.
Yeah. But he appreciated his long form, and he felt like he can get out what he needed to say instead of, going on one of the news agencies. And so he just that's kind of how he explained it. So
that makes sense.
But so this was the breakup happening in real time. I mean, we saw it. It's never good when the parents fight in front of the kids. And this one, it was official.
Yeah. He's like, I'll apologize profusely as soon as there's a full dump of the Epstein files. Like, Elon basically took the gloves off. Okay, Elon. If we talking about Street Fighter, okay, Elon basically. He popped super. He popped the super move. He said he hit the super move. You heard the bling. And he just started throwing hands. That's basically what just happened here. There's no turning back from that.
No. If anybody's ever played Street Fighter, you're playing somebody, and one person gets into that groove where the other person can't do anything. Like they got them pinned in the corner, and they're just going ham on them, right? And it's just like. You can't block, you can't get a move. Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you can say as you want. As soon as you drop that Epstein thing, everybody goes, yeah. Right. It's just
that's like when somebody catches a right hook and like the whole crowd goes, that's basically
whether it's true or not. The minute you drop that, yeah.
And I will say, I do think that Elon's being disingenuous, because I think that he knows that Trump is in the Epstein files, but probably not in an incriminating way. But he wanted to get a jab in, basically. He wanted to get a shot in.
From what I knew, that's been reported to some degree, kind of stuff you said. But he made it seem like there's some incriminating stuff in there. That's why they had dropped it.
And so it's petty. It's immature. That's the kind of stuff that, I am annoyed at that, because I'm like, y'all grown men. Okay. I knew that Trump was capable of a very, very strong level of pettiness, I knew that Elon could get petty. I didn't know that they were going to do this. I didn't know that Elon was basically going to go full unbridled petty mode. But he did.
We should have known, though. But Charlie Kirk did make a good point. Charlie Kirk said, look, man, the Democrats just in power for 4 years, and you saw everything they tried to do to bring Trump down. if he's in the Epstein files, don't you think that would have got leaked? Like,
Oh yeah.
it would have got leaked. They would have prosecuted. They would have went after it. If there was something in the Epstein files to incriminate Trump, it would have got dropped in the last 4 years.
Oh, 100%, dude. 100%. Yeah. Because remember, the Epstein files, all that stuff happened during Biden's presidency. They had full access to the Epstein files.
Yep.
So if there was something in there that was going to take Trump down, please believe that they wouldn't have been using Bragg's stupid lawsuit up in New York to try to take Trump down. They would have been using that without question.
Yeah. Facts.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else we got? I know we got.
Do we have another tweet in there? I don't know that we have another tweet.
I don't think we got another tweet. Do we have the?
Yeah. I don't think we got another tweet in there. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Did you get the other breakups in there, or we're gonna move past that?
Oh, hold on. Was that I'm trying to remember what was that was that tweets or was that a video?
It was a slide.
Let me see. Let
It
me
was
see
an
what I
image.
got. Oh, yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Oh,
Sir.
okay.
Yes, I did get in there. So You had a question for the audience there.
Yeah. So this is the biggest breakup since what other breakup? Like what breakup is like, man, that was the biggest breakup until this happened, right? You know, was it Brittany and Justin?
Man,
you know,
it was huge.
Was it
seismic?
Ross and Rachel? Now they want to break. They broke up.
Man,
Bennifer, come on, y'all.
Yeah,
that was huge.
Yeah,
that was huge.
Yeah,
Hulk Hogan and Macho Man.
Huge breakup.
Huge.
Man,
and who can forget Shawn Michaels, Marty Jannetty, the Rockers. And they broke up. He threw him through the glass. Caught everybody. Caught the world off guard. You know. So if you could think of some other breakups that was just monumental. We were on a break. Yes.
Well played, Claire.
If y'all can think of some other breakups that was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe this. You know, put them in the chat. You know what you could think of. This is the biggest breakup since what? You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. For this household, it is Ross and Rachel. My wife's a huge Friends fan, so you know that one wins out in this household.
Yeah. You know, it's kind of funny because I gotta go back to a couple tweets here, a couple comments here. You know, because we mentioned the cookout. I mentioned the cookout.
Oh.
Chris said we ain't been invited to the cookout in a long time. And so did Matt. we were disinvited from. Hey, you're right. I was disinvited from the cookout a very long time ago. You are not lying about that. But I will say that one thing that I never got into Friends because back then, I even then I looked at Friends and I said, man, it's like white people. It's like black people don't even exist in New York in Friends. Like no black people on camera at all. Like they don't run into black people in this show.
They added one. It was one character ended up being on there.
Like, they're like, oh snap, we gotta get some black people in the show. No, we gotta go straight past extra. It's gotta be Ross's girlfriend. We gotta go straight to girlfriend.
Center for Biblical Unity said Whitney and Bobby.
Whitney and Bobby. That's a big one. That was a big one.
Yeah. And Matt, I'm with you, man. That was brutal. That was brutal. At least Seinfeld had the black lawyer.
Seinfeld was my show. I never got real into Friends, but Seinfeld was my jam. What was
the lawyer name? Jackie. Oh, what was the lawyer name? He was supposed to be like what's it called from the OJ trial?
Oh, Johnny Cochran. He was supposed to be.
Johnny Cochran.
Like Johnny Cochran.
But he was Jackie. He was Jackie something though.
I can't remember. Oh man, that show was amazing. So I think that this breakup, because see, they didn't have enough time to establish a relationship for it to get to the level of like a Ross Rachel. I can't remember how long Justin and Brittany were together, but that was that was seismic, right? And Ben and Jennifer, Man, that was that was huge. So I don't know, man. But if we're talking about the egos, like if we're just talking about based on the size of the egos, I don't know. This might have actually ripped a hole in the space-time continuum because that's, I mean,
I thought you were gonna say because of the egos, it was gonna be Hulk and Macho Man.
Brother, that was a pretty big one, but I gotta say this one takes the cake. Oh yeah.
R.I.P. Macho Man. R.I.P. Oh man,
that was my dude.
So yeah, so I just threw these. I'm like, we got to talk about breakups, man.
Yeah. So y'all put in the chat if y'all think there's a bigger breakup, but whew, man. Well, it was fun while it lasted. It was a good team up,
It helped. I mean, Elon did say it. It helped Trump win the election. The team up.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, snap. Okay. DWC said, what about the Fat Boys? It still hurts.
Still hurts a bit. I didn't even think about musical groups.
Oh man. That's so good. Oh man. What's up, DWC? Shout out to you, man.
For real. Hey, Claire, I think Claire has tied it together why it is Ross and Rachel.
Okay. She says, I think Ross and Rachel, Elon had Ross and Rachel. She says she thinks it was Ross and Rachel. Elon had just ended his contract with DJT. All of this happened on a break. So, maybe. Hey, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance to get back together.
Get back together. Hey, if it's like Ross and Rachel, we're rooting for them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh man. He said NWA breakup.
Yeah.
But he said, you out there trashing NWA though.
I was. Rightfully so. So.
Yeah. No shade on that. No shade on that whatsoever.
Nope.
All right,
man. So that was the big story. Caught us off guard this week. Just how messy it was. It was like Jerry Springer. I'm just going to compare it to that. Hey, you're muted.
I'm a crazy person. Okay, yeah. And it's sad that that's happening in the White House.
It
is. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
Like, I laugh. I can laugh so hard because I've already cried at how this is just this level of to be quite frank, just ratchetness. This used to be a thing coming from the Oval Office. It just seems a little bit like the Oval Office turns into a bit of a reality TV show.
Real World. It's the real world. That's what it turned into.
Yep, it turned into real world. Yeah.
But I will say this. What I said in my article when I said why I'm voting for Trump this time, I ended it with saying that I'd rather live in a world with mean tweets than a world where we can't tell what a woman is. And 100%. So regardless of this, I'm still happy with this over the alternative.
100%. There's, in case y'all thought that we were having second thoughts, no.
I will deal with this stuff.
Yeah. And I'm not, unlike Darth Vader, I am not lying when I say there is no conflict.
Breaking out all the references tonight. We got Star Wars, we got Friends.
I got to. So what else we got tonight, man? We got something else to talk about.
Yeah, man. So out of nowhere, we have this spontaneous riot over ICE raids in LA. And so the world kind of went crazy starting yesterday. I think we've got a video to show of just kind of a news clip of some of the things that happened last night. Trump activated the National Guard today to kind of protect federal buildings and resources. But yeah, we'll get into it. We can play the clip.
coming out. They're coming out. Watch out! Watch out!
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. Hold on a second.
Okay, I didn't know if it was just frozen on my end or not. No.
Yeah, I saw that it froze. I don't know why it's froze.
But we get it.
Yeah.
So a lot of burning of vehicles, a lot of waving of Mexican flags, which I don't understand. I take that back. I do understand. When we get into a little bit different part of the conversation, I'll kind of say why I think why that's happening. But yeah, it's LA, right?
Right.
We've been having ICE raids all over the country with no incidents, and they get to LA, and LA acts a fool.
LA decides that they decide they're gonna show out and act crazy, and I'll say that I would say that this is insane. I've never seen anything like this, but I live in Atlanta, so I can't say that. I can't. I was here, living here. George Floyd riots, all that stuff. The BLM riots. I got a friend who got deployed every night for 2 weeks in the National Guard because of stuff that was going on. So I would say that I've never seen anything like this, but I live in Atlanta, so I can't say that.
I'll just say I wasn't expecting it this week. That's why we weren't planning on talking about this. And then it was like, okay, this has gotten too big. We've got to talk about it.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah. And so, like I said, it's been a lot of burning of cars. President Trump actually did activate the guard. But it's not, like I said, it's just to protect federal assets right now. And so we'll see if this thing grows. I don't think it's going to grow. I was texting with Monique and Krista. They both live in LA. And Monique made a good point in terms of for it to be a real riot, like you don't see any black people out there. I'm just talking about just the demographic. I mean, because they're in Compton, right? Like the demographics, like who all is gonna get involved? If we're gonna make this 1992 all over again, right? Who's all getting involved? Black people ain't out there riding over ICE raids. The Koreans aren't, right? What they call them, the rooftop Koreans.
Oh my gosh! Why we got?
There's no
to be involved in the riot? Why we got to be involved in the riot?
if it's gonna like get real, then yeah, we're gonna get involved. But it's not. But we're not. So like, who's all gonna be involved with this thing to make this thing like just really get out of hand? And I don't think it is. I think it's a select few people. And we're gonna talk about it, like who's out there doing this and causing this and why, right? But I just don't see it as a. I don't see it as like the Rodney King riots and things like the big LA riots we've seen in the past. I don't think that's what this is gonna be.
No. One of the reasons Chris said the Koreans are based.
They are. They call them. They say the rooftop Koreans, man. They was on top of those rooftops with those guns last time.
They ain't playing.
Nope.
I will say that waving the Mexican flag, you're protesting ICE raids. Okay, you're protesting ICE raids. You might be here illegally, okay? You might be here illegally. You're going to show up to a violent protest. You're going to show up to a violent protest, and you're going to wave a Mexican flag. All I'm saying is that if you wanted to mark yourself for getting deported, that's the number one way to do it. You're just like, hey, I'm right over here. I'm right here. What are you doing?
No, somebody on X made a good point. It's like the nerve to wave a flag of a country you won't return to.
Right. Right.
Like, what sense does that make? I've never understood why, because it's not the first time that they've done this.
Right.
Where they protested something immigration wise and they go out there with all these Mexican flags. It's like, that's not the message you want to send. If you were trying to send a message of we're Americans, you're gonna be out there red, white, and blue,
Right.
you know, playing Lee Greenwood. I'm proud to be an American. You got some Toby Keith, like some red solo cup. Man, you're gonna be out there like, man, we are Americans. Like they in California and LA talking like this, like we are Americans. Right? You trying so hard to let the country know we one of y'all.
We one of y'all. But here's what the left did to y'all, man. The left said that America's trash and America doesn't deserve to have the land that it sits on. And so you deserve to be here just as much as anybody else. And therefore, you think you can come and violently protest illegal immigrants being deported while waving a Mexican flag. And you think that is supposed to help your case? Like, are you
No.
So what is the end game here? What are you gonna go to war? Like what you prepared to do? Like what you out here waving another country's flag? What you gonna do?
The end game, I believe, is just to incite violence, cause division and trouble. Has nothing to do with really immigration. It's kind of like George Floyd. It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
And
it's not.
That's actually, I love that you went and dug this stuff up. You actually got some info on who's funding the riots.
Yes.
Yes. Which speaks some to the end game.
Yeah. And before we get into it, I'll quote James Lindsay. The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. Mm-hmm. Don't get into the weeds of the issue and trying to argue. It's never about that. They're just using the issue, whatever the issue is.
That's right. That's right.
The issue is always
exactly
the
right.
revolution. Yeah,
100%. So we actually have a thread because I didn't want to just pull a screenshot from this. I want people to be able to see this whole thread. Let's take a look at this.
So good old data Republican, kind of became infamous with the Doge stuff. She is is she blind? I think she's blind.
Oh wow!
I saw an interview. She's like a blind tech data nerd. She just researches the mess out and digs into stuff.
Wow.
And so she dug into who's funding this. And she created this thread. Can you read it? I can't read it.
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially it says, hundreds took to the streets this weekend, blocking roads, attacking federal officers, even burning flags. But it wasn't a spontaneous outrage. It was organized, funded, and coordinated. And so essentially what she's saying that a number of NGOs have been implicated in this whole riot situation. Krista says she's deaf, not blind. So she's deaf.
Yeah.
All right. So I was going to say, I want to have her on the podcast, but I guess that can't work. maybe she's got a text to type, a teletype. Maybe she's got that. But she said a number of NGOs have been implicated in this. Foremost is Coalition for Humane Immigration Rights, or CHURLA, and the photos of signs show that they were printed by PSL Web, Party for Socialists and Liberation.
There you go.
Boom. The issue is never the issue. The issue is the revolution.
Yep. It's always what issue can they exploit? On Off Code today, we interviewed Alfreda Baldwin, and she wrote an article on Manning Johnson, Manning Johnson was a black man who was in the Communist Party from 1930 to 1939. And in 1958, he wrote a book about, but basically what the communist plans were, right? And yeah, and this is basically a continuation of that. They simply want to exploit racial issues in America to try to divide America and take America down, right? And
Yeah.
it's been going on for nearly 100 years now. And
Yeah.
so this is the same playbook. They just still doing it. So they took the opportunity to, you know, look at the bad publicity or look of these ICE raids, and they said, how can we exploit this for our cause? And that's what they did. So this is not spontaneous protest that just came out of nowhere. This is planned, this is staged, and it is funded. And so, yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I want to read this language because this is the kind of political language you will hear from people who they want to play on your emotions, but they really have a socialist agenda. It said, our community is under attack and has been terrorized. Angelica Salas, executive director of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, or CHURLA, told the crowd of protesters. These are workers, these are fathers, these are mothers. And so they want to play on the emotions, but it's like, well, yeah, they're human, so they're going to be something, right? They're going to be one of these things, right? So it's just rhetoric is what it is to try to play on the emotions. Those things don't negate the fact that somebody came here illegally and is potentially putting weight onto the system that and you know, they're basically coming in and they don't have to play by the same rules. They don't have to play by the same rules that you do, right?
Yeah. Or just like you said, or just this idea that they have a right to be here.
Right.
Like, you don't have a right. Like, I couldn't imagine this being in any other country. Like, I've traveled to other countries. They have laws. They have immigration laws, right?
Right.
And if you go over there and you break their immigration laws, you don't just get to be like, oh, I deserve to be here. I got a right to be here.
No.
They're going to put you in jail.
That's right. That's right. They're going to put you in jail. They are definitely going to put you in jail. And I can go ahead and tell you right now, free speech ain't a thing in the mother countries.
Oh, no.
You ain't going to go out there and protest and do all that stuff.
That's a completely different topic, but I have discovered that free speech only exists in America.
That's
only
right.
in America. Not Canada, not Britain, not Europe, nowhere. Only in America do we have free speech, the First Amendment. Nowhere else. It's crazy. But the key word in that statement you read was workers. That's the tail word.
Mm-hmm.
Because the communists love the workers, right?
They love that
It's
line.
always the workers' party of blah, 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 right? And even on that sign, you know, billionaires are the enemy. And like, you just tell it on yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
But go ahead.
That's why, and you're exactly right. They always want to play on the whole worker thing. It goes back to they're trying to build a proletariat. They are operating, they're operating off of a Marxist perspective that the worker is the one who should be running things. And so it's literally just an entire worldview built on covetousness. It's an entire worldview built on covetousness. I don't have as much as the guy who employs me. And that's not to say that the guy who employs me hasn't done things that are wrong, hasn't used their wealth uncharitably. That's one thing that Francis Schaeffer actually said, that in his book and in his documentary, How Should We Then Live, which is a great documentary, great book. Highly recommend that you check that out. The documentary, you can watch it for free on Prime Video. But that is one of the things that he says is that one of the reasons that Marxism wound up being able to get a foothold in public discourse is because there was a period of time where wealth was used in a way that was not out of love. It was not done in the interest of fellow man. And that doesn't mean that, when I say that, it doesn't mean that, you're supposed to give all of your wealth away because you have more than somebody else. It's not what that means. It just means that people were ruthless with it, and that gave rise to the Marxist perspective, but that doesn't make the Marxist perspective right.
Yeah.
So to jump into some of the funding here, so Churla has, they've got an employer identification number, which, if you don't know what that is, if you're a business, you have an EIN, which is kind of the business version of a social security number, so that they can find out how much taxes your business owes. And they said that most of its private funding appears to be from DAFs. I actually don't know what that stands for, but she says that they are the hardest to trace as far as funding sources for NGOs. However, 34 million of the reported 45 million in revenue that Churla has is from government grants. This right here is this is the bombshell.
Mm-hmm.
$34 million of the party for socialization and liberation comes from the government. It comes from the government.
It comes from us, taxpayer.
Yes.
Here, $34 million. Yeah.
That
to
is,
do what?
This is bombshell right here. The fact that they got $34 million, a socialist NGO got $34 million of taxpayer money, is a bombshell.
Yeah. But keep going, because I think she goes more into like exactly where the funding came from. Because I'm not surprised when I read where the funding came from.
Yeah. So in their most recent year, they jumped from 12 million to 34 million in government grants. And it's probably from California. She's saying it's only 450,000 in federal grants.
Yeah. So if you only got $450,000 in federal grants, and you got 34 million total from government grants, so that means you got almost $34 million from state grants. That came from California. California has funded this socialist group. Yeah. And I'm not surprised at that.
And so, what's wild is, if you think about that, the implications of that, this is basically a state deciding that it wants to, it's a state deciding that it wants to break the law, that it wants to break the law, and it's going to fund an organization that has an ideology that's fundamentally antithetical to the American way of life. They're going to fund that, and they're going to fund the protests. Fund the protests.
I'm gonna be honest, part of me is like, well, let it burn.
Right.
They paid for this.
Right.
This is an internal state of California issue.
Yeah. This what they want. This what they want. Okay. This what y'all want. Y'all, you want to house and be a sanctuary state, essentially, not just sanctuary city. You want to be a sanctuary state, and we'll get into the mayor's comments that shows that she basically is saying that LA is a sanctuary city. You want to do that, then just take away any sort of federal funding, any of that. We just take it away. Y'all do what y'all want.
California should not be receiving federal funding at all. And I say that. I'm saying it because if California itself was a country, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world.
That's right.
California has a huge economy. Think about it. If it was its own country, it would have the 8th largest economy in the world. It would be at the seat of the G8.
Right.
Why does it need federal funding?
It don't. Yep.
And so that just tells you how vast the U.S. economy is when one state alone would be 8th in the world as if it was his own country, you know. But yeah, and so this is California funding an organization that basically tells you who they are. This isn't like USAID where it was like under some other name and they were doing these nefarious things. It's in the title.
Right.
And you awarded them nearly $34 million in grants. And now this organization is out here in the streets funding these protests and organizing these protests in your own cities that you now have to spend money on to number one, fix the damage. You're spending money on law enforcement to handle the situation. Like, it's just costing Californians a lot of money for what? Like, you created a problem that you now have to solve. It's like having a war and you're funding both sides. The state of California is funding both sides of this war.
That's right.
In their own
That's
state.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I feel bad because we have Californians in our chat, and so I feel bad.
And we love y'all.
I feel bad.
We love y'all.
Do.
We seriously, get the heck out of California. What y'all do?
I will say everybody in this chat that is from California, I have tried to rescue at one point in time. Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Y'all got to get up out of there. You need a place to stay.
I tried.
You need a place to stay. You know, we got an extra room. Y'all got to get up out of California, man. Get up out of there. Y'all live in a different country, man. Y'all live in a different country.
Yeah, hey, we got the guest room at the house. Devin them got the basement. Like, it's room. Let us know.
Y'all got if California going up in flames, LA going up in flames, you know, listen, we house you, okay? But I will say I have a friend in the neighborhood who's from California, and he said, you know, there are part of the problem is that the really highly populated areas of California control so much of the politics. And so, you know, Southern California and San Francisco control so much of the politics, but you have places in California that are deep red.
Absolutely. And, you do.
You know, they just don't have the numbers to have weight at the state level.
Yeah. No, that's 100% fact. And even the difference between Southern California and Northern California, like Northern California is completely different culturally than Southern California.
Yes.
Yeah. And so in most places like that, you have these very large cities, LA, San Diego, even like Sacramento, where the capital is, these very, very blue areas that dominate the politics, but everywhere around them is all red.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And those people get frustrated because they basically have no voice. And I get it. It's like if someone was liberal or progressive living in Alabama, they're going to feel the same way.
Yeah.
Like they have no say-so in state politics, you know?
Yeah.
But
that's right.
Yeah. And so I get it.
Yeah. I get it. So, you know, if it gets bad, listen, you know, we Underground Railroad get y'all out. Underground Railroad, we get y'all out of California. We get you out of the, as I like to call it, the PRC, the People's Republic of California. We'll get you out the PRC,
man. Wow.
So Data Republican says the group that printed the signs, Party for Socialism and Liberation, is not a nonprofit. They are a literal communist party. Let me say that again. They're not a nonprofit organization. They are a political party. They are a literal communist political party. The California government is funding a literal communist political party to the tune of tens of millions of dollars.
That's crazy. But I'm not surprised. Not surprised at all. Yeah, but I just want to point out when it comes to these riots that, hey, this is BLM 2020 all over again in terms of this isn't spontaneous. This isn't, you know, ground roots and anything like that. This is sponsored, organized. The question is for what cause? What's the reason? What's the purpose behind it? I mean, the organization speaks for itself and tell you what the purpose is, but it just show you that it's just they exploit issues in our country to try to amplify them to cause more and more division, right? And so, and not just division in terms of, oh, we want more people to feel, sorry for the immigrants. No, they appreciate the visceral reaction from the other side as well. Like, they want you to get mad. They want the National Guard to come in and lay a heavy hand. It's it's kind of like Dr. King and his peaceful protest, right? It was nothing peaceful about it. His whole point was to get the reaction, right? So that he can exploit it. He was agitating to get the reaction. And so even if the reaction is justified, it's the way it looks. And so even if there's this backlash, that's what I tell people on the right and that's what James Lindsay keeps warning people on the right. You're falling into the trap because the more you get upset and the more you develop a white consciousness and the more you develop this white identity and you start to fight back, you've bought into what they want you to do, because now they can say, wow, look at the real true white supremacists. We told you, right? And so you have to be measured in your response. You can't get emotional. You can't come at them with a heavy fist, because that's what they want you to do. Because then they can say, oh, look at them now. And that's what Dr. King did in the civil rights movement, right or wrong. That's the tactic. That is the Marxist communist tactic.
Yeah.
And so, so just be up on game and don't fall for it. Just and a lot of law enforcement has realized that. I don't know if you remember, like in 2020, when you had the Baltimore riots, the Freddie Gray riots, the people would be right up in the police officer's face and shouting at them, yelling, saying horrible things about their wives, their mothers. They just wanted a reaction because they wanted the photo op of them getting beat by the police.
Yes.
Right. And the police had to just be restrained and just let it go, because they know that's what they're trying to do. And why are they trying to do that? Because people are stupid. And I say that in the nicest way. People will fall for the propaganda. And we're going to get into that later in the show about another piece of propaganda that people are falling for. But yeah, that's why propaganda works, because people fall for it. People are emotional. They don't think through it. They're not critical thinkers, and they will simply react. So if the police go in there and start beating people with clubs, all of a sudden you're going to have, all this upswell of support for these poor immigrants who are fighting this state-run authoritarian, dictatorship, and that's how the narrative is going to get spun.
Yes.
And so, the general public just has to be aware. This is the game that's being played. Don't fall for it.
That's because my natural reaction when I see these videos of these protests and they're out there throwing rocks through people's windows, and if you look at it, they're not just throwing rocks through the federal agents and the ICE agent windows. They were throwing rocks through whoever was driving through that area. They were throwing rocks through their windows. Yep. My reaction to that is beat them all down. Like, when I see that, when you throwing rocks through people's windows, like big rocks, like not little rocks, you're taking massive rocks that could do traumatic injury to somebody's head if it made it through the window. My reaction to that is beat them all down, but I know that's what they want. They want that to happen, and so I commend them for not doing it, because I tell you, when I'm watching that video, man, it makes my blood boil. I'm just like, man, beat them down, get them all.
My buddy Chad Jackson, he's working on a documentary about Dr. King, and there was this town in Georgia where the sheriff caught on to the tactic, and Dr. King and his people came in there, right, to do the whole peaceful protest and to agitate to try to get the law enforcement to come in and drag them out and beat them up. And the sheriff had caught on to it, And he was like, no, we're not going to do that. He said they treated them nicely, right? So Dr. King wrote basically like, it's a lost cause here. There's nothing we can do here. It was like, that's how you defeat them. You don't fall for it, right? You don't let them agitate you into a response because that's all they want, right?
Yes.
And so, and I'll say this, I know that's not the topic, but just with the civil rights movement, what we see in those videos is what Dr. King created for us to see, right? Those were common tactics of police officers to break up illegal protests and all that type of stuff, right? So if you were a white labor union and you didn't pull a permit and you tried to go and protest down the street you didn't pull a permit for, they would do the same thing with the hoses and the dogs and stuff like that. Dr. King knew that, but he's like, it's going to look so bad that they're doing this to these poor Negroes that we're going to be able to exploit it on TV, right? That's what the whole thing was. And so we have this image in our mind that in the 1960s, this is what was happening to black people. It's like, no, that's what they caused to happen to black people because that's what they wanted everybody to see. That was not the life of black people on a normal everyday basis. That's what Dr. King was agitating the police to do to them. So people just need to realize that. And so the same thing is happening today. It is the same Marxist tactic today. Those people in LA are trying to get the response, right? Because they want the photo op, they want it to get ugly so they can exploit it to make it seem as if they're the victims in this whole thing. And so, just don't fall for it.
Yeah. No, that's well said, man. That's well said. And that's not to say that, y'all please don't hear what we're not saying. We're not saying that things needed to stay the way that they were. We're not saying that Jim Crow needed to stay in place because I can bet that invariably we're going to have some people say that. We're going to have some people in the comments say, "Oh, y'all shucking and jiving. Y'all wanted to stay in chains. Y'all want to stay drinking out of a different water fountain." That's not what we're saying. That it's not what we're saying. What we are saying is that there was chess being played. There was chess being played, and it was effective. We're not saying that things didn't need to change. We're not saying that there was no reason to protest. We're just saying that the tactics employed, they were specifically employed to try to get a certain response and to try to get things to look a certain way in the media to be used for political ends. And Rosa Parks
Facts.
and Martin Luther King, to Chad Jackson's credit, I know this because Chad, posts so much information on Instagram, but they went to a communist school. They went to a communist school to learn activism. They learned their activism at a socialist communist school before they went out and did this stuff. Rosa
Hold
Parks
up.
was
Are
not
you
some
trying?
old
Are
lady.
you trying to tell me Dr. King and Rosa Parks knew each other before that incident? Are you trying to tell me that was staged?
I might be telling you that. That's my bad, man. I didn't mean to drop it on you like that. I know that's surprising. I don't want you to be like Neo from the Matrix. It's like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. When I saw that, when Chad put that video out, I was like, wait, what? Like, I've been lied to my whole life. I'm over here. I'm like, it's not real. I can't believe it. And then he showed the stuff. He showed the proof. He showed the receipts. He had the receipts. And then I said, man, politics is cynical, man. It's just so cynical, man.
It is. And so, like, once you learn the Marxist game, and that's what this is. That's why we're pointing out who's funding this. Once you learn the game, once you learn their tactics, you're like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing, right? And so that's all we're trying to point out. And we're just tying it back through history because whether it was the civil rights movement using these tactics, whether you believe Dr. King was an actual true communist or not, he went to communist schools. He learned communist tactics. He surrounded himself with communists. And so the things that he used to move his cause was communist tactics, right? Yes. Whether it's the BLM movement, who have admitted they are trained Marxists,
100%.
The same tactics, right? And now this group funding these protests in LA today, same tactics. It's the same stuff over and over again. And so once you recognize it, you just kind of stop falling for it. You're like, okay, I see what's going on here. They're just trying to exploit a situation to prey on people's emotions. That's it, for a political end. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's right. And again, the cause, I understand and agree that the cause changing the way that black people were treated in America, the cause was righteous. The cause was worthy. The methods, that is what we are criticizing. We are criticizing the methods, and at some point, we're just gonna have to get into criticizing the actual legislation. But we ain't gonna get into all that tonight. We ain't gonna get into all that.
We don't have time. We do not have time.
We don't have
tonight.
time for that. We gotta try to see if we gotta try to see if maybe we can get old Chad on the show for that.
Yeah.
But I do want to address because my sister Krista is not happy with some of the things that we're saying, and I don't want to just ignore this. I mean, we out here, we are having a little bit of fun with this, but I don't
know if she was talking about us though. I don't know if she was talking about us. No, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't think she was. But I will go ahead, since you mentioned Chad, and it would be hard to get Chad on Sundays because he runs his live Cutting Through the Culture at the exact same time on Sunday nights.
That's true.
But I'm going to take this opportunity to plug something, because moving forward, we can have Chad, because we are moving our show to Thursday nights.
Thursday nights, y'all. Thursday nights.
I just dropped it.
He dropped the news. Moving to Thursday nights. And so there's a reason. There's a couple reasons for that. We hope that you all can still make it to those. One reason is because I work super hard, because I'm a crazy person, and I started a startup, and so the only real day off that I get is Sunday, and I realized I need to get more time with my family, and so Kevin, being the good reformed elder that he is, he was like, "Brother, you need to spend time with your family." He's a good man, y'all. He's a good man. He's a good man. So that's probably the biggest reason. But also, yeah, I mean, being able to get some guests that, we normally wouldn't be able to get on a Sunday night is another reason.
Yeah. Okay. So Krista said she was referring to us. It was about the way we were speaking about the voting. And I think just kind of saying, you don't have a political voice. You can't really change anything. And so, I mean, it might be discouraging, but I'm just going to speak the truth. If you are a conservative in California, the chances are you flipping, put like this, to flip California red is the same as to flip Alabama blue. You're going to have to come in and completely change the cultural beliefs of the place. And not saying it can't happen, but that's the slow march through the institutions. You got to start controlling the schools. You got to control all of that stuff. If you want to flip the way the people in that state think and believe their worldview, that ain't just a, hey, we got to get the right candidate in place. Those people have a certain worldview and belief that, and it's a moral belief. They're holding on to what they believe is morally right. And so to get them to change that, yeah, it's gonna take a lot of work. Not saying it can't happen. It's just not going to happen in the immediate future, the way we're, 2028, 2026 elections, midterms, 2028, like California is going to be blue, the way Alabama is going to be red. The only way certain states like Georgia turn purple is because people from outside the state move in and change the demographics. But that's all I'm saying is, like, it's just the current reality of the situation is the people in California are largely, progressive, not even just liberal. I'm just going to say progressive. Right. Like the conversation we had with our buddy from Canada. The default party in Canada is the Liberal Party. In LA, the default party is the Democrat Party. right?
Yeah.
And so unless there is some, like I said, it could be a miracle. It could be a Reagan type person come along and completely flip the state, but I just don't see it, especially with the number of people who have left the state. And the people who have left the state haven't been the progressives, you know. It's been the people who have been fed up and they just decided to leave the state. And so they've gone to Tennessee and Florida and Texas. And so that doesn't help with the voting demographics as more and more people continue to just leave and pull out. Like Matt said, they left, you know. That's the trend we're seeing. So as that trend continues, I don't see California becoming more red. Now it did this past election. It did move more red. Didn't come nowhere near close to winning the state, but there was an upswing in red in like each county. But once again, nowhere near close to even threatening to win California. I don't know. Maybe the leadership gets so bad. Maybe the Karen Basses of the world. I take that back. No, I don't have that hope. I was gonna say, maybe the leadership gets so bad that people just get fed up and vote for something different. But when Gavin Newsom won that recall election and it wasn't even close, I'm like, what else there is?
Yeah.
Like California's in a horrible state. He's been recalled and he still wins the recall election in a landslide.
He still won. And so that I will say, I'll say, Krista, that not trying to be dismissive of the plight, but I will say when you look at the demographics, you look at the numbers, the sheer numbers of people in Southern California. The question does need to be asked. Because one of the things that Krista is saying is that the problem is that the elections are corrupt. She's saying that a lot of people essentially are they're cheating in the elections, whether that's illegal, whether that's illegal immigrants voting, whether that is just ballot harvesting, whatever it is. But I will say that I'll take the example of here in Atlanta. Okay, just the example of Atlanta. Kevin already gave a pretty good example, looking at demographics in Canada. The fact that the Liberal Party is the default party in Canada, in the whole country, essentially, and there are maybe some conservative enclaves. The issue that I see when I look at Atlanta, you look at the way that Atlanta votes. It's very similar to what I see happening in California when you look at how people vote in California. When the closer you get to the metro areas, the more blue it gets. Same thing happens here in Atlanta. You get inside the perimeter, it gets blue. I mean, gets very blue. And even I technically am outside of Atlanta. In the larger metro area, you still have areas outside of Atlanta. And if they are more populous, more metropolitan, they tend to go more blue. And so it's you have to get, unfortunately, you have to get a little more rural for it to start going red in Atlanta. And so I look at that, and we just don't have the numbers. We don't have the numbers of a California, but when you look at what happens in our populous centers here in Georgia, that, if you're in Atlanta proper, Atlanta proper right now, unfortunately, most elections, they're going to go blue. And so
same thing. Even in Alabama, our city centers are blue. I mean, the black people vote 95% Democrat, right? And once you get inside these inner cities that are largely black, even in the South, they're going blue.
Right.
But once you get to the suburban areas, once you get to the rural areas, that's where you're going red. And it's just not enough in the blue in the city. We don't have very large cities. So there's not enough in the city to turn the state the way you have an LA and a San Diego and all of these other large cities out there, or even in Georgia. Atlanta is so huge, right? Compared to the rest of the state. Atlanta itself makes it purple,
Yeah.
makes the state
Yes.
purple from being red. Yeah.
I would say that that I don't think that Georgia's really purple. I think that Georgia looked purple because there was some shenanigans going on.
Oh, election denier.
They found fraud. They did find some fraud, like, and not small numbers of votes. When you look at how close everything was, not small numbers of votes. So they did find fraud. Just another one of the things that they said, oh, that's conspiracy theory, and then and they had even swayed me some, but they found some stuff. So you do see that. But I don't think Atlanta's really purple. I think that when you run a bad candidate like a Herschel Walker, that's
true.
That's
or even
part of the problem.
or even someone as polarizing as Trump in the presidential election.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, because Kemp, look at Kemp. Kemp wins. Both of his
and that's the
elections.
That's the governor of the state. Yeah.
Yeah. Brian Kemp smoked. I mean, he smoked Stacey Abrams.
He
smoked her. And so it's not that people aren't willing to vote red here. You run a bad candidate. There are enough Democrats and independents here that you're not going to win if you run somebody who is crazy. Just because they have an R next to their name doesn't mean they can win in Georgia anymore. I mean, that's the reality of it. But Georgia is decently red. But I'll say, and I basically I don't mean to be dismissive. Just to address what Krista is saying, that dismissive attitude is frustrating. Because I could totally tell somebody who's there, somebody who's on the ground in California trying to fight the fight. If you're trying to fight the fight, people like me out here calling, California the People's Republic of California and all that stuff. I know it's frustrating. I get on my friend's nerves. My friend in the neighborhood, he gets frustrated when I start talking junk about California. It's all love. It's all love. If people want to stay on the ground to try to fight the fight, by all means. I think that if you can, you should. But we are going to be realistic about the cultural stranglehold that progressivism has in California. And I think you're absolutely right, Kev. It's the slow walk through the institutions that's really going to change the game, because even the fraud itself, the fraud is being co-signed because of the cultural stranglehold that progressivism has in the state. They would not turn a blind eye to the fraud if there wasn't a cultural stranglehold. And so that's what really has to happen, is a slow walk through the institutions of the state. I stand with you on that.
Yeah, either that or just, I put it like this. There are certain things I have hope in. I think, okay, the economics, like people can't afford to buy a house. You would think that would cause some type of change, but it just never does. And so that's why I'm just arriving at that point that it seems like no matter how bad things get, no matter how bad the places are governed, they won't make a change. What will make them make a change? I don't know. In terms of like the immediate, you can always, like say the slow march, change over time. But just the current situation, I don't know how bad it has to get before people are willing to vote for something different. And so I'll just say this. I do believe that people should stay. I don't believe from whether it's a Christian standpoint, from a conservative standpoint, I don't believe you should just give up ground. I think it's realizing that, I feel like this. When I'm in the South, I know I'm at home. I know I'm home base because it's the South. I know the culture here. It's the Bible Belt. My views are going to be the dominant views because I'm in the South. When I leave out of here, I realize I'm not at home base anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's a different mindset. So if I'm going to move to California, I'm moving to California with a particular mindset. If I'm moving to Denver, I'm moving to Denver with a particular mindset. I already know what the deal is. But I get the frustrations, but it's just the reality of what it is. Those places typically don't have What do you want to call it? A biblical worldview? What do you want to call it? A historic Western world cultural worldview? They just don't have it. Um, they've been captured, and it's been going on for decades.
Yeah.
And so, what do you do with decades and decades of this type of indoctrination going on? And so, it's always going to be a remnant. It's always going to be a minority that's there, and I'm grateful for it.
Mhm.
But you just have to realize that you don't live in red America.
And
So-
it's because of a minority of geography in the state. It's a minority of geography in the state, but a massive majority in population that essentially controls it. And Chris does make a good point that they've had Republican governors up until recently. Now I say recently, the last Republican governor that was there was Arnold. I think that's the last Republican governor that you had.
California Republican governor is not the same as conservative.
Yes, that's right. It's not the same. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. Arnold, if you look at Arnold's comments on political events here recently, Arnold's not really a Republican. Arnold's a California Republican. Now, would I love for another Ronald Reagan to rise up out of California? Absolutely. We got Ronald Reagan from California. And so we do have to remember that Ronald Reagan came out of California. It was a different time in America. It was definitely a different time, but it did happen, and it is possible. But I will say the governor is not a Republican in the traditional sense. If you got to look at how Arnold will come down on certain policies, right? Just let's take abortion for instance. Arnold ain't voting for no heartbeat bill. He's not. Arnold ain't gonna vote for no heartbeat bill.
No. Yeah, he's probably going to go along with the traditional California sentiment, whatever that would be. But I will say, you brought up Reagan. Reagan's 1964 speech, "A Time for Choosing," where he was talking about his switch from the Democrat Party to the Republican Party.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been written today, man.
Fire.
It could have been written today.
Fire. Man.
But that was 1964. So Reagan saw that stuff coming in and taking over in 1964. Right? Here we are in 2025, and that stuff just been entrenched for the last 60 years.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, it's not hopeless, but it's just a reality of what the situation is. If I was just going to analyze it and say, okay, this is the situation. Now, if I was going to develop a plan to change it, that plan would be to reverse the trend of people moving out. And I'm going to be strategic in moving people into it. And we're going to change, the demographics immediately. And then we're going to get on the school boards. We're going to, you have to do it from the inside that way. Right.
Yes.
But if the current people just continue to stay and rotate in power, and Chris is talking about the elections, I got to look more into, or we got to have a conversation about what California's election structure is. She's basically saying it's unfair and stuff like that. I don't know enough about their state elections to realize. I don't know. Is it just their own version of gerrymandering? Is it voter fraud with illegals? I don't know what it is. But I'm interested to hear what she believes the problem is in terms of she's saying the elections aren't fair. And so it would be interesting to hear what that's about. But no, that was a good. No, I didn't expect we was going to dive down there, but I'm glad we did.
No, yeah, it's good. It's good. I think that it's one of the things that I very, very much would love to see. I would love to see California begin to shift because they've had really bad policy for so long. It's gone sideways for so long, and I, you asked a great question, Kev. How bad does it have to get for people to start to switch. Now, I hear Krista basically saying, the problem is illegal voting, no ID required.
Fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. And I would say, I'll say this. I actually think that, I'm an Article 5 guy. Okay. I'm an Article 5 guy. Article 5, Convention of States. I want a convention of states to happen because I think that more power needs to be taken away. More power needs to be taken away from the federal government. I would imagine if the founding fathers were here today, they would say, "Oh, we thought we were being lean with it on the power that we gave the federal government. Apparently, we were too generous. We need to take some more away." I can almost guarantee you that if the framers were here, they'd be like, "Oh, heck no," But I will say that one area where I do not think that the states should have the ability to set their own rules is with requiring proper identification to vote in an election. I think it is absolutely ridiculous that you could vote in an election and not identify yourself as a legal citizen of the United States. That is absolutely ridiculous, patently absurd. And I do not think that should be up to the states. I think that's one of the things that actually should be at the federal level. And
at least when it comes to federal elections.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and I would venture to say that you could justify saying state elections as well because state elections wind up affecting federal policy because you can have a state election to elect a senator and you wind up affecting federal policy because you sent some senators and you sent some representatives as well to Washington.
True. Because I was thinking of senators. So those are federal positions. So I was still considering those federal elections, but we don't vote for state and federal stuff separately. It's all on the same ballot. So yeah, you would still need to prove. Yeah, it needs to be federal. You're right.
Yeah, and I think that should be, quite honestly, I think that should be a constitutional amendment that identification must be valid. Identification must be presented at the time of voting in order for you to get to vote in an election. Straight up, I think that should be a constitutional amendment. That's one that we actually need. That's one we actually need.
And I just want to address Krista's comment about I said California deserves the riots, and she said that's a ridiculous take, especially for a Christian. I'm saying is if your government is funding this group and this group goes out and does the thing which they are known to do because they're socialists, communists, then yeah, California deserves, and we talk about it, you deserve the leaders you get. A nation, a state, whatever, you deserve the leaders you get. These leaders are elected. The people of California elected these people. I don't know, and no matter how bad they get, no matter how progressive they get, no matter if they deny what a woman is, no matter if they let boys go and play in girls' sports, no matter what they do, the people of California elect these people back in the office who are crazy left-wing progressives. And so crazy left-wing progressives get voted in the office to do crazy left-wing progressive things. What else am I supposed to say? Oh, the state of California deserves better? No, you deserve the leaders you're getting. And I know that's hard to hear because that's your home and you don't believe in it, but that's what the place is. You got to be realistic about what California is. California is nothing else but what it perceives itself to be, or what it actually does. It is, and I'm glad there are people that are there that are different, but as an overwhelming majority, that's what California is. And so I don't know how that's a ridiculous to take to say you get the leaders you vote for, the leaders you deserve because you voted for them. And then when they do the things that are in line with what they've always stood for and done, I don't know how that's any other thing then that's what you deserve. If you have leaders that run on raising taxes and having high taxes, and you vote them in the office and they raise taxes, then you deserve to have high taxes. I don't know how that's a ridiculous take.
Right.
But you say the corruption is deep.
But
Like I said,
listen.
I can imagine if we look at, okay, what's the number of illegals in California, and if we made it to where illegal immigrants in California cannot vote and make sure they didn't vote, I don't know how those elections would turn out. I don't know if it'll be different or not. I don't know what the numbers are.
Yeah.
And which way those people vote.
Listen, because here's what has to happen. Okay, here's what has to happen essentially for what Krista is saying to be true. For what Chris is saying to be true. What that means is that the majority of people really are either more moderate or more conservative. And it's just an overwhelming amount of illegals that are voting in these elections. But I'm sorry, culturally, I just don't think that's the case. I don't think that that's the case. I think that the reality is that you have an overwhelming majority of the population of California in these metro areas, and their culture is progressive. If I were to go on the street and just start asking people questions in California, I'm willing to bet money that if I start asking their positions on certain policies, most people would wind up on they would lean left on a lot of those policies. And I would love to be proven wrong about that. If there is some massive fraud that just overrides the actual culture of California, is there's this massive, incredible fraud that overrides the culture of California, I would love for that to be true, because that could mean it could be a much quicker fix. I just don't see I don't see that being the case because of the population concentration in SoCal. And so I think that the issue there is that the cultural lean of most people in the state, it unfortunately is to the left. And so I think that there is massive fraud? I would not be surprised. You're right. I don't live there, so I don't know for sure. But I'm willing to put money down that there's a massive amount of fraud because they do not require ID, which is a big deal. That's a huge deal. However, I'm just saying that looking at the cultural export of California and the way that you see people act in California, in these more populous areas, we've talked about it on the show before. The fact is, and I say this because I want to stress the sheer numbers in the metro areas of California. This point has been made by many people. If we had a popular vote, if we went to what the Democrats want and we did a popular vote in America to determine the presidential election, Southern California and New York City would determine every presidential election going forward.
Yeah.
If we did that.
But you see what they're saying,
numbers.
though? You see what they're saying? So basically what they're saying is that they've got 10 million illegals. And on top of having 10 million illegals, there's no voter ID law. There's no verification for how many times someone can vote. So they're saying not only are illegals voting, but people are voting in some cases probably more than once. Like they're saying the numbers are inflated in these blue cities and they're overrunning the rest of the state. because of the corruption in voting within these heavily blue cities. I think that's a valid argument. I would love to. I've never deep dived into California's elections that way. But yeah, that is a theory that needs to be examined.
Yeah, I will say,
because I do know California's red outside those states, outside those cities, because every state is red outside of its major cities.
Right.
You know,
and that's the point, though. That's the point. The sheer numbers in these metro areas, the high population density in these metro areas. Like I said before, they've done the numbers. If we went to a popular vote, Southern California and New York City would determine every election of the president if we went for just sheer popular vote. And they know that. That's the point. The Democrats know that if they were to get rid of the Electoral College, that it would be dang near impossible to elect a Republican president because New York City and Southern California would determine the presidency. Now, the question is, okay, the question then is there that much fraud? Because if you have to consider how many people are voting across the country. So, you know, we said, what was it in the last in the presidential election in 2020? The numbers indicate that we had about 81 million people vote, right? We have around 330 million people in the country. That's probably increased because of the amount of illegal immigrants who have come in across the southern border. But we have about 330 million people in the country. About 81 million people voted, those are the numbers we have from the election that put Biden in the Oval Office.
Wow.
And so the normal
number. This is a show topic. I'm just gonna be honest. This is a show topic because I'm just reading the chat. I'm like, okay, we need to do a deep dive into this because I don't know. I feel like I'm getting informed in the chat, right? I don't have an informed take right now. I need to do some homework on California's elections and the numbers, and because I looked up Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom won the last election by 20 points, but I couldn't find like what the actual numbers were. Like, is that 2 million votes? Is that 1 million? Is that 3 million? I don't know what the numbers are. I just know he won by 20 points. You know, he had about 60% of the vote. And so I need to do some more homework on this to really say, okay, because I see what they're saying. And says it's always 20 points. Yeah. And look, I don't put it past it. I mean, we saw what they did during COVID on a national scale. We saw what happened in Atlanta, right? I would not be surprised if that's happening in these blue cities in Chicago that they fully control. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. No voter ID, bunch of illegal immigrants. Yeah, I think it's worth diving into. But
it's definitely worth diving into.
Yeah, I think there's a whole show, and we might have to bring somebody on to school us on that, like we did your boy from Canada.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say though, even though some of the things that we said might have been insensitive to the plight of the folks who are on the ground willing to fight. You know, we said some things in jest.
The Democratic People's Republic of California.
The PRC, you know, I did call it the PRC. I will say that we have to consider the burden of proof here, because when we talk about population numbers, and we see the way that those sort of metropolitan centers go. When we look at the numbers and the way that people vote, what we would have to be able to say is that illegal immigrants and voter fraud from people who are citizens is so high that it is the majority of the votes coming out of California. We'd have to be able to say that. And I'm just going to be honest. I don't think we can. I don't think that we can say that the level of fraud and illegal immigrants is voting such that when you consider that by themselves, New York and Southern California, New York City and Southern California could determine presidential elections if we went to a straight popular vote. We would then have to say, and need to take need to consider the sheer numbers that means are coming out of those places. We would have to say that the majority of that is fraud. We'd have to say the majority of what's coming out of California is fraud. To say that the problem is fraud and not the culture. Just saying, that's a massive burden of proof.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see it because it's not about it's not that all of it is fraud. It doesn't have to be all of it is fraud. It's just that what she's saying is that they're stuffing the numbers so they beat out the areas outside the major cities. So it's not that all of it is fraud. She's just saying that there's some ballot stuffing going on to boost their numbers up to eliminate the votes of people outside those areas. And so, I mean, that could be a legitimate thing. And so that's why it's like, okay, I need to do some homework on what those numbers are to see if that is even a valid thing or a trend, or, you know, because when people looked at the Georgia stuff, people said, hold up, something's funny here. Something's fishy. You know, I've never talked about, you know, California and stuff. And I'll just say this too. It's not, when I say California deserved the riots, it's not personal, right? You can't take it personal. It's not about individual people deserve something. It's just saying the state as a whole in general, right? If the state as a whole in general votes for something and votes for certain leaders, and those leaders enact it, then I don't know how you can't say that state or that area, whatever, deserves whatever they get based on the way they voted. And I know the argument is, well, they didn't vote that way, it's all fraud. Well, like Devin said, that's got to be proven, because I've never believed California is just voter fraud away from being red.
Yeah, 100%. That's literally what we're being asked to believe here, is that California is actually red, and it's just voter fraud that's the problem. I'm sorry. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I don't believe that. You say that the only thing you have to argue is that it's a certain percentage that you have to prove is fraud. You're right. It's the majority percentage you have to prove is fraud. You have to prove that a majority of the voting is fraud in order for...
Well, not the majority. It's just, I mean, they're losing by 20%. So basically 20%. Like, they got to get that number down 20% because they losing every election 20%. So you got to find 20% of the vote is fraud, which could be. It could be.
Maybe. I'm saying that the numbers are much, much larger. So Chris is saying she's arguing that it's like Georgia. She's arguing that it's like Georgia, that it's purple. Yeah. That she's not arguing that it's red, that it's purple like Georgia. I will say I don't actually think that Georgia is really purple. Georgia went purple in the last election, and Democrats thought that or in the 2020 election.
Well, I do think it's purple based on population shifts. It's just a matter of voter turnout, right? And so purple just means that it can go either way. There are certain states that just can't go either way. They're not swing states. Georgia's a swing state. It can go either way. That's why it's purple. North Carolina, Virginia, they're purple. Wisconsin, purple. Pennsylvania, but New York, blue. Mississippi, red. Like, there are certain, states that are just, where they're going to go because they're not swing states. Georgia used to be hard red. It was not a swing state, but it's a swing state now. It just depends on who turns out the vote and what the candidates look like.
I can see that. I can see that. It's interesting because people saying that Georgia's purple. This is a recent development.
It is.
This is a recent development. It was really 2020, and Democrats are out here like, we flipped it blue, and then everybody's saying that Georgia's purple, and I'm like, you guys picked the most abnormal black swan election to decide that Georgia's purple. Maybe we want to see a few that aren't black swan elections for you to decide that Georgia's purple.
Yeah.
Because I am willing to bet money that Ossoff and what's his face, the non-pastor who preaches at Ebenezer, Warnock. I'm willing to bet money that Ossoff and Warnock are going to get they're going to get kicked out of their seats in this next election. And so
just don't run Herschel Walker again. You'll be fine.
Right, exactly. You run Herschel Walker again, and you run a chance of getting beat. But I will say that Georgia is definitely more blue than it was before. Because we've had some people move out.
To your credit, in the last 3 elections, Trump has won Georgia. I mean, he's won it twice. He's won it twice, 2 out of his 3 elections.
I'm just saying.
And the time he lost it by 10,000 votes. So I get what you're saying.
And yeah, they think that they found maybe, I can't remember how many times that they think they found in fraud. So I'm just saying, like, yeah, it people be saying it's purple. I don't think it's really purple.
I hope she's right, because that's a easy fixable issue if you can get in there and do it. Like, that's easier to fix than complete cultural overhaul, right? And maybe that's why there's some pushback. Maybe if Trump does clear out all the illegal immigrants there, maybe that does affect the way the elections turn out. I mean, it is a hypothesis worth testing. I'll say that.
Sure. So Chris asked, so Georgia can have voter fraud, but not California. I didn't say California can't have voter fraud. I'm saying that ours was close. 10,000 votes. It wasn't no 20 points.
And it was an anomaly from what Georgia turns out to be. Georgia's typically red. And one election, it went blue by 10,000 votes. And you're saying fraud and anomaly. I get that. It's not that California can't have fraud. It's that the fraud would have had to been in place since forever.
Right. It has to be very big. And so, again, it's not like you haven't had Republican governors in the past, but when we compare a California Republican governor to a Georgia Republican governor, big difference. Now, I can get with California being closer to being a swing state. I can get with that idea, that it being closer to being a swing state if some of the fraud is removed. However, I still think that California is blue. Even if you remove the fraud, I think culturally California is still blue.
California's crazy. It is. It's not just California. It is the West Coast, Oregon, Washington, the same way. I was in Colorado a couple years ago. It was the same way. Denver, Boulder area was very.
Yeah.
It's just very progressive.
Yeah.
It's so progressive. Oh my goodness. You can feel it. You just feel the progressiveness.
And I will admit, the only places I have ever been in California as an adult, because I went to San Diego one time when I was a baby, and I don't really remember much. I do have a memory of looking off of a cliff, and my mom said that was real, and she can't believe I actually remember something from when I was an infant. But I do remember looking off of a cliff. I will say that I've only been to San Francisco and Santa Monica. Those are the only 2 places in California that I have actually visited. And it's evident that those 2 places are quite progressive. We're talking about San Fran. Arguably the most progressive place in the entire country is San Francisco.
And I would put San Francisco up on the scale what she's saying with Portland and Seattle. All of California isn't San Francisco. No.
100% agree. 100% agree.
But for some reason, in those major metropolitan areas, they just vote heavy blue. You know, no matter, like I say, it seems like no matter how bad it gets. Yeah. Well, how bad does it have to get for someone with an R by their name, for a Larry Elder or someone like that to win that state?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So I know. One of the people I really appreciate out there is Kira Davis. Really appreciate Kira Davis out there. She's fighting a good fight. And she's even said that probably what you're going to have to do to get some things to change in California, you're actually probably going to have to get a more conservative Democrat in office is probably what you're going to have to do first. Before you can shift it red, you're going to have to get a more conservative Democrat in office. And so she was actually irritated with Larry Elder because they thought that they had a real chance. I can't remember the name of the other guy. They thought they had a real chance with the other guy, but Larry Elder's he's too polarizing. He's too conservative, and at least he just doesn't know how to play his conservatism right. Larry Elder, love the dude. Really appreciate that dude. I appreciate his life story, all that stuff. But Larry Elder Larry Elder got no chill, man. He got no chill. Yeah. When Larry Elder goes on an interview, I talked about attack dog Kelly, Megan attack dog Kelly. Larry Elder, if Megan is attack dog, like Larry Elder's like straight pit bull. I mean, he got no other modes. Okay, Larry Elder talks at Mach 3. He talks super fast, and Larry Elder came to rumble. When he gets on your show, if you say anything that sounds progressive, anything that even sounds progressive, Larry Elder immediately he starts throwing out combos, man. He got no other mode. And I'm like, when I saw him in some of his interviews when he was running for governor, I was just like, Larry, this is not the way. You're not going to win California like this, my guy. It's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
But yeah, and like I said, every state out, no matter if it's a red state or not, every state outside of its blue cities is red. It just is.
Yeah.
California's the same way. I know that. It's just a matter of when you have very large cities, even New York. New York City is blue. Yeah. Once you get outside of New York City, it's red.
Yeah.
But New York City's population is so massive, they just carry it. They carry the state.
There's a story. I got a story from going up to New York on business. I was on a business trip and I went to Buffalo. It's the only time I've ever been to Buffalo.
That ain't New York City,
dude. I went up to New York, went to Buffalo, and I'm in the car. I got a lift. We got a lift from the airport to the client's office, and my coworker, and she's definitely progressive. My coworker is trying to make small talk with the driver, and she's like, "So, you ever make it down to New York City?" And he said, "No, absolutely not. I try to stay as far away from those people as possible." And I was like, so it's just like all the other states.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, I understand. I get when you look at a map of California, you say red, 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 red. Then this blue dot here, this blue dot here, and this blue dot there. It's like San Diego, LA, San Francisco. You can add Sacramento in there too. Outside of those, it's just red. But the massive numbers of people who live in those blue dots is just enormous.
Yeah.
And like I say, it could be 20% voter fraud. It could be. But we also know even outside of that voter fraud, those places are just unique. Like Southern California, UC Berkeley, just the ideology is so prevalent there compared to other places in the country,
Yeah.
That's why it's hard for us to see or believe that California is just voter fraud away from being red because of how progressive the progressive areas are.
And how populous they are as well.
Yeah, and how populous they are. Yeah. Man, didn't expect it. I didn't have this on my bingo card tonight.
I did not either, but it was a good discussion. Appreciate you challenging us, Krista. You sparked a very good conversation tonight.
Yep. You did. Yep. Didn't mean to offend. I really did.
Yep, yep.
Um,
I wish that I could say that I would stop calling California the People's Republic of California, but I can't make that
you got
promise.
to add the D on there, man. It's got to be
The
the DPRC.
DPRC.
They, all of those countries they always call themselves democratic. It's always the Democratic People's Republic of Congo or whatever it is. You know, it is. It's always
So
they put Democrat in there all the time.
it's true. So I'd say that because I was relating it directly to China because they call themselves the PRC, the People's Republic of
Yeah.
China.
Yeah.
DPRC is North Korea. That's pretty
I know.
extreme, man. That's real extreme.
And the Congo. And the Congo.
Yeah, that's true. And the Congo is, woo, man. Congo on some other stuff, man. They, I pray for Congo, man, because they out there killing Christians, man. They out there killing Christians.
When the Communist Party tried to set up their Communist Party in Afghanistan back in the 70s, it was the same thing. Democratic People Republic of Afghanistan, whatever it's called. Same thing.
Yeah. Matt says he's been calling it the PRC for years. and Krista does not deny that it is run by socialists. So
just got to get them out. Got to get them out.
Yeah, that's right. Slow walk. Through the institutions.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, there's two ideas. Like, I said leave just because I care about y'all. I'm like, man, I want better for y'all. I want y'all to get out. But at the same time, if I was going to have a strategic plan to change, like, okay, I'm going to try to change California, then it's like, no, y'all stay. We're going to mobilize here. We're going to do this. We have to have a large strategic plan, but there's nobody trying to do that. There's no one saying we need to take California. They're basically saying we can win elections without California, or we can do without California, or California break off the map. No, it's kind of a dismissive attitude towards
it's true.
California. Yeah, nobody's saying we need to go take California.
And you make a good point because the Democrats are willing to do the slow walk. They're willing to say, okay.
Krista, put in the chat, what did I say that's not true? I said something
I think that she misunderstood what you were saying. You were saying that the Republican strategists, like at the national level, they're not saying we're gonna go take back California.
I see what you're saying. Okay, when I say no one, I'm being hyperbolic. Like, of course, someone is, just not on a large enough scale to make any real change. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's no national strategic move of evangelicals to recapture California. That's what I'm saying. It has to be it's a massive state with millions of people in these huge cities. You have to have a massive movement.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying. The way they took Austin, Texas is the weirdest place in Texas.
Yeah.
It is the Portland of Texas.
Yeah.
And it got that way because there was a massive movement there to retake that ground, right? It have to be something like that, but I'm saying, like, there's not enough national will for people saying we need to target California and really, change it from the inside out. I'm not saying no one's on the ground doing that.
Yeah, that's not what we're saying.
I'm talking about on a massive scale.
Yeah,
is what I'm referring to.
At the at the RNC level, because Krista, you yourself said that we need help at the federal level. I agree with that. I agree. From a politically philosophical standpoint, that you do need federal help with that. I think every state needs federal help with that. But to talk about California specifically, you would need a movement. You would need the RNC to say, we are going to make California a strategic priority, and we are going to start, like you said, Kev, the slow walk through the institutions. We're going to start to, we're going to put funds. We're going to put strategic, efforts into. We're going to put strategists out there, et cetera, to try to play the long game in California and start to culturally change it. Because I still think that's the only way that you're really going to make the change. You have to culturally change it, and it's going to take a long time. And I will say that back to what I was saying before, the Democrats are willing to do the slow walk. The Democrats, they look at what they've done to higher education, not just in California, across the entire country. Look at what they've done to higher education. Look at how deep their claws are in to higher education. They're willing to do the slow walk. If you start to look into the history of Hillary Clinton's activism, she was friends with Saul Alinsky. And Saul Alinsky is the one who wrote Rules for Radicals. And the way that he looked at changing the government, Saul Alinsky was, largely viewed as a revolutionary on the left. He viewed the way to change government as being to overthrow it from the outside. The way that Hillary Clinton looked at it, the only thing they differed, because their ends were the same. Hillary Clinton wanted the same ends as Saul Alinsky. She said the way you change it is from the inside. So she was willing to get elected running as somebody who was more normal and not as radical. But her goal was to be that on the outside, but actually be a radical and change it from the inside. Get in office, change it from the inside. And so Democrats have been willing to do that for decades. For decades, they've been willing to do the slow walk through all of these things to get control in higher education, to influence entertainment, slow walk through entertainment, to influence massively the culture of the entire country and to export their ideas to the entire world. Hollywood exports its ideas to the world, not just the country. And so we've got to be willing to do that. We've got to be willing to do the slow walk. And I think that's what it takes in places like California. It takes a slow walk.
Yeah.
Man.
And I could be wrong in how I'm viewing this, but it's like, are we talking political? Or are we talking spiritual? Right.
Right.
If you're talking spiritual and Christians, because she's saying the Republican Party is not trying to help Christians, trying to mobilize within themselves. Spiritually, I mean, you need a revival to basically happen if that's the case. Mm-hmm. But if we're going to talk politics, if we're talking school board and state positions, we're talking politics at that point. So we are talking about the Republican Party. We're not talking spiritual things at this point. We're talking politics, and so if we're going to talk politics, we got to talk political strategies. And there's not enough Christians in California itself to mobilize enough to change California. It's just not without making more Christians, that's discipleship. That's a revival. That's not politics at that point, because you're not trying to make Christians do politics, right? So we're just talking about politics. To me, that's not, and to me in California within itself, there's not enough in the key areas. There's not enough Christians themselves to really change those areas. You're gonna need help if we're strictly talking politics.
I am one of the people who's always arguing that if we really want the massive changes for the government to really become what conservatives want it to be, which is small government, individual liberty, freedom of religion, all that stuff, and to go back to our Christian roots, for our political philosophy, that it's going to take spiritual change because it's going to take cultural change. And cultural change is downwind of spiritual change. Political change is downwind of cultural change. So I agree with Krista when she said we need both spiritual revival and political strategies. But we're talking at different levels.
I just look at the list of things you named. Those those things aren't necessarily spiritual. Small government, that's a certain philosophy, and that comes through how you're educated. Right? What are you educated to believe? And right now, they have a monopoly on the education.
100%.
And so they're reproducing more disciples than we can in those areas.
They are doing that. I will say that I think that Romans 13 predicates a small government. I'll argue that Romans 13 predicates a small government.
Nope, you're gonna lose that argument. No, sir. Because I love our system of government. It is not biblically ordained. I don't care if you live under a king, you live under a monarchy, I don't care if you live on a full authoritarian dictatorship. At the end of the day, the government's called to do righteousness, whatever that looks like. There is no form of government within Scripture. Big, large, democratic, authoritarian. It does not say. It just say government do righteousness. So whatever that looks like, that's what it looks like. So Romans 13 does not predicate small government. No.
That's definitely a larger discussion. Because I want to make the case. I'm gonna stand on business with old R.C. Sproul. I'm gonna make the case that the Bible does argue for a small government. I'm gonna make the case. That might be it. That might be a show. That might be a whole show.
It needs to be a show. I'm looking at the theocracy of Israel. I'm looking at the kings they were under. Like, small government? I don't know, man. I don't know. There are certain things of it does, talk about individual like property rights, stuff like that. Absolutely. But when we say small government, we've got something that's totally different in mind.
I'll make my case. All right. I'll make my case. I think I can make a strong case from the scriptures. I'm gonna stand. I got to stand 10 toes down on that one. I think I made that case. But I will say that it's got to be at that level. Talking about government doing righteousness. I'm gonna tell you who's not doing righteousness right now is Karen Bass. She ain't doing righteousness.
Oh, I'm glad we finally got to it.
Yeah.
Man, this lady. Look, put in the chat. Who has the worst mayor, L.A. or Chicago? Put it in the chat. Which one? Who's worse, Karen Bass or Mayor Johnson? Because man,
that is hard.
Bless their hearts.
That's hard. Yeah. She says that deploying federalized troops on the heels of these raids is a chaotic escalation. The fear people are feeling in our city right now is very real. Oh man, hard eye roll at that. It's felt in our communities and within our families, and it puts our neighborhoods at risk. This is the last thing that our city needs, and I urge protesters to remain peaceful. I've been in touch this morning with immigrant rights leaders as well as local law enforcement officials. Los Angeles will always stand with everyone who calls our city home. Please understand the coded language in that last sentence.
Trash.
Straight trash. That last sentence is saying we are a sanctuary city. That's what that last sentence means.
Yeah, she's been in touch with immigrant rights leaders. She's in touch with the progressive socialist people. 100%. That's it. Yeah. And they get her elected, and so she's not going to go against them. Yeah. And so the fear people are feeling is because there are people rioting in their city. The fear is her city's inability or unwillingness to control its own city, right? Law enforcement. That's why people are fearful. They're not fearful because of Trump, bringing in the National Guard. No, people are fearful because of her inaction or incompetence, whichever one you want to blame it on. But for this to be happening in her city, this is on her. She can't pass that buck to somebody else,
Right.
No. But talking about standing with everyone who calls our city home, she's basically saying, and to Krista's point, I'm on the bandwagon now. They're just trying to protect their voter base.
Oh, 100%. Oh yeah. No, they
their
definitely
legal voting base.
Yeah, they want that.
Yeah.
I mean that I acknowledge that at the national level. Democrats wanted that. Why do you think the border was open? They're trying to build a governing coalition. That's why. That's why. They're betting on if we let all these people in, when we are the ones who are letting them in, they're going to remember who their friends are. And that's why they push for not having ID in elections. That's exactly why. Don't let anybody convince you otherwise. It's not because of racism in the past, okay? People gonna say it's because of racism in the past, and that stops old black people from voting. The numbers of old black people who don't have ID is
They're
so
planning to vote.
minuscule. Oh my gosh, it's that was such a red herring, or it's just so bad.
Yeah.
Don't believe that junk. The reason that they wanted the border open and no voter ID is so that they could secure power, secure lasting power. That's why they wanted that.
So two things on that. So we had a conversation with Chuck Holton. Chuck Holton is a war correspondent, former Army Ranger. He now lives in Panama. And so we had a conversation with him on immigration. And he pointed out some things I hadn't thought about. One of the big pushes for illegal immigration in these sanctuary cities was the census, the 2020 census, right? So in a census, they do not just count citizens, they just count people, right? And so these cities boosted up their numbers with people, illegal immigrants, and they boosted their census, their representative numbers, all of that stuff prior to 2020. And so they're set for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
The other part of it, the Biden administration, 70% of new job growth was illegal immigrants. So they did it to boost the economy. They boosted the workforce. They boosted the economy on the back of illegal immigration. 70% of Joe Biden's job growth was illegal immigrants.
That is insane. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
And so they had their own reasons then, because this is the thing. Back in the day, it was almost a given that black and brown people would vote Democrat. But the current Democrat Party has moved so far progressive that a lot of these brown people coming in are culturally conservative, and they can't really rock with the Democrat Party. So brown faces don't necessarily mean Democrat voters anymore.
Yeah.
And so it's more than just, oh, these people are going to vote Democrat. They needed the economic growth under Joe Biden for his numbers to look better, and they needed them early in 2020 for the census, right?
Wow.
Yeah. And I think certain people in California are also just ideologues, right?
Yes.
They believe in open borders. They believe in we're citizens of the world. They believe in, basically, we should invite these poor brown people in. We're good progressive white people.
They believe
there's a lot
we're
of
on stolen land. They believe we're on stolen land. That's one of the things that I hear a lot is, oh, we're on stolen land. Nobody's illegal. We're on stolen land.
Yeah. And so it's a very interesting when you look at the motives behind what they did with the border and letting all those people in. So I think LA. So Karen Bass wins the worst mayor in the country award.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I think that, I can't remember if we said this, but I want to make sure we say it. Pray for LA. Pray for safety, for folks, for the officials, that they do the right thing, that the officials do the right thing, and that sanity wins out there. Pray for them. So
right.
We want to move on to what the X. We got a couple things to run through and what the X before we shut this thing down. There's some crazy stuff happening out there. Let's see here. Oh man. I forgot to touch on real quick. You brought up the
oh man, that's a whole other
voluntary
discussion.
self-deport. Yeah.
I forgot about this. Because we went down the rabbit hole of California. So there is an app in which you can self-report and self-deport. The government will give you resources to whatever country you want to go to, a flight or whatever. And if you self-report, it's also more favorable for you in terms of coming back in a legal status. So if they catch you and deport you, there are consequences for that. And I think it's like a 3 to 20-year ban on coming back, depending on what they decide. But if you self-report through this app, then you're basically eligible to come back immediately based on certain circumstances, whatever. And so what they're trying to do is encourage people to self-report and then self-deport themselves, and the government will assist you in getting home. And so this is the Trump administration has set up. And so the question is, should people be encouraging illegal immigrants in their communities and their churches to self-deport? I'm just going to give my answer. I would encourage people to do that, just because I think you're more likely to get a favorable status if you cooperate with the government, right? So organizations like these immigrant rights organizations, they would do much better if they would vouch for the people that are in their organizational care, right? Say, hey, this is the process, become an expert on the process, have lobbyists, people within the government that you can, hey, these are our people. It's a list of names that we've got. These are the people that, we're vouching for, that type of stuff, right? I think that goes way further than we're going to defy the government. And then when ICE comes in and snatching them up, and now they've been caught, and now they're being deported, and now they're not eligible to come back for 3 to 20 years, right?
Right.
That's just not the situation you want, because you can't just fight ICE, which is what they're trying to do.
Right.
So yeah, I would, especially if I was like a church, I would definitely encourage people to self-deport. The people around them have to come up with a solution. Let's say it's the husband has to be deported, but the wife and kids have to stay here because they're citizens. Okay, now people around them got to step up. That's what community is for, right?
Yep.
And then the church needs to work with the government to help that person get back in by vouching for them.
100%.
I think that's the way forward, and not this. I'm trying to play this because I saw a progressive on line use this reference. This is not an Anne Frank situation.
No.
Oh, they basically said the conservative Republicans would have given up Anne Frank in this situation. I'm like, stop.
Oh,
stop.
Please stop.
Yeah.
That's
so
yeah.
And so that was and so that's the situation I think we're dealing with this. I think self-deporting is the best route for a favorable outcome of returning in a legal status.
Yeah. Kevin for president, y'all. Kevin for president.
I'm too honest, man. I never get elected.
Well, at least you've been elected. You've been elected to the show. Oh, hot takes are everywhere.
Show over. Let's start it
All
over.
my buttons messed up.
It's been a train wreck up to this point. We got to start it over, y'all.
Start it over. That's my bad, y'all. That's my bad. I got to fix my buttons, man. What I really need is I need producer Liam back. He offered to do it in the studio, and I should have got producer Liam back. We go to Thursday. We getting producer Liam back. That's what we doing. But let's go. Let's talk about what is going on X. What the X is going on with Simone Biles? Man. Oh my gosh. This is
she
disappointing.
Came out the woke closet. Yes, it is.
Man.
Yes, it is. And she thought she ate too. Like she was like, I went off.
Yeah. Man, so Simone Biles out here, she says to Riley Gaines, "You're truly sick. All this campaigning because you lost a race. Straight up sore loser. You should be uplifting the trans community and perhaps finding a way to make sports inclusive or creating an avenue where trans feel safe in sports. Maybe a transgender category in all sports. But instead, you bully them. One thing's for sure is no one in sports is safe with you around. Bro.
Yeah. So
Bro.
for people that don't know, Riley Gaines is a female collegiate swimmer, and she became famous because she started protesting the Leah Thomas situation. So having to swim and compete against biological men. And she started to speak out against that, and that's how she became a name. And that's what her work is now. She's an activist to protect women in sport from not only just having to compete with men, but to have biological males in their dressing room to share their spaces with these biological males, right? And so that's what Simone Biles is talking about. She's calling Riley Gaines sick. The people, the biological men who are pretending to be women and trying to compete in women's sports and winning competitions aren't the sick ones. Riley Gaines is the sick one for bringing it up and fighting against it, right? And it's so hypocritical because Simone Biles, if she had to compete against men, she wouldn't have any medals.
Right.
Right.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. And it's crazy too, because it was a tweet from her from 2017. And she was saying, and she basically said the same thing. Like, if she had to compete against men, she wouldn't have any medals. And Riley Gaines went and found that tweet and was like, oh, really?
Brought them receipts. Yeah.
Receipts.
And so, yeah, Riley Gaines definitely fired back. She said, this is so disappointing. My take is the least controversial take on the planet. Simone Biles, being a male apologist at the expense of young girls' dreams, didn't have that on my bingo card. Maybe she should compete in pommel horse and rings in 2028. Oof.
Yeah.
Oof.
So read Simone Biles' comment. Read that.
Bully someone your own size, which would ironically be a male. Simone Biles is tiny, okay? Can we just establish that Simone Biles is tiny? She's saying that Riley Gaines is the size of a man. She's probably the size of a normal woman, okay?
She is. Riley Gaines is 5'6" and slim. Like, she's no big woman at all. Simone, but it's saying like Simone Biles is taking shots at Riley Gaines and saying she's the size of a man and all this type of stuff. Simone Biles has been one of the people that's been outspoken about body positivity for women and all this type of stuff. Like, she's become a complete hypocrite over this trans issue. She's lost her mind. Because you have to lose your mind to be on that side of this issue.
Yeah, I'm absolutely dumbfounded that because typically somebody who is an athlete at Simone Biles's level, somebody who's an athlete at that level is think about the things that they have had to endure, what they've had to put themselves through in order to get to that elite level of performance.
Yep.
Those people tend to have more conservative outlooks on things because they understand that you get in what you put out, and that's the way it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am dumbfounded that Simone Biles has wound up having this attitude because it's just so off the rails of what a typical elite athlete is gonna think about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Matt asked if I had the 2017 tweet. I'm finna send it to you.
Oh yeah, send it to me. I'll put it up.
Yeah.
Cause this wild right here. Simone Biles wild for this.
All right, yeah. Sent.
All right, let me pull this up. Crazy talk. And so I just don't know what happened. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what happened for her to wind up taking this, this
the woke
attitude.
mind virus, man. The woke mind virus, man.
And that's another question that I have. How did the woke mind virus get her? How did it get her? I'm curious about that because it is a different sort of deal when you got somebody who's like a Simone Biles. how'd they get to you? You afraid of not being accepted? Is that how the woke mind virus got you? That
Yeah.
you're afraid you're going to get
Yeah.
ostracized from the circles that you run in. That's
Yeah.
probably, if I had to put money on it, that's probably what I would say.
So I did respond to her on this 2017 tweet because everybody, once it got found, people just started commenting on it and on the current situation.
Yeah.
And I just told her, I was like, look, I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt. I said, I think you mean well, but I recommended that she reads Allie Beth Stuckey's book, Toxic Empathy, because that's what this is. That's exactly what this is. She's
100%.
trying to be empathetic, but it's toxic, right?
100%.
But so yeah, this is her tweet from 2017. Good thing guys don't compete against girls or he'd take all the gold medals. Yes, Simone. That's the point.
kind of the point. You kind of have to admit that there's a difference between men and women.
Because you remember, in 2017, there was no such thing as trans.
Right.
That wasn't even a conversation. Nobody was thinking about that. I mean, now trannies.
It existed. Okay, it existed, but not in popular culture. So apparently this has been a thing for decades, but it was not widely accepted. It was not a thing. I will say I was
Gender
in
dysphoria was a thing.
It actually, I will say that it started to become a thing. When did the bathroom bill happen in North Carolina? Because I lived in Charlotte. I was at ground zero when the bathroom bill happened.
I thought it was after that, but let me see. This is around the time the world did start to go crazy.
It was March 2016. So actually it was in 2017.
The year before that.
That's when it really started. And I'll tell you when I was there, it wound up becoming ground zero because of the bathroom bill. It started, that stuff started getting national attention in Charlotte. The head of the Human Rights Campaign, I can't remember what his name was, but the head of the HRC decided to make it a national issue. Our mayor was a lesbian at the time, and so she kind of was opposing the governor. She was opposing the Republican governor who was saying, "No, this can't fly."
I do remember that. Because it was so weird. It's like, I never thought about bathrooms. We got a bathroom bill.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the whole letting dudes who dress up as women get in the women's bathroom became a problem. North Carolina governor said, "No, we ain't doing this." And so the mayor of Charlotte decided to oppose it. She teamed up with the head of the Human Rights Campaign. They did a bunch of pressers. And he walked into the governor's office and he got a meeting with him, and he decided to just walk in up to his desk, put his hand on the desk and said, "I am going to make Charlotte, North Carolina, ground zero for trans rights in America." And he turned around and walked out. And that's really when it all started. And so it's amazing that at the time, Simone Biles' mind was right, and she realized that this doesn't make sense. But something happened along the way. I don't know what it was, but I
guarantee you this comment was made without that being a thought. Like, it still wasn't in the national, like, people still weren't really talking about trans athletes in that way, right?
Right.
This is just a comment she made about a guy being really good. And she's like, man, good thing the boys don't compete against the girls because I wouldn't have any medals, right? She probably wouldn't say this today because she was a transphobic comment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But yeah, that's what's happened. I think so. It was like 6 different states in the last week. There were championships won by a trans athlete or a team with a trans athlete on it, over an all girls team. And it's like, we can't keep letting this happen. These girls are working too hard to go out there and have to play against a boy. It's just,
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. Like Riley Gaines said, this is the least controversial take in the history of takes. Yeah.
Look, think about this. if you want to think about somebody who's in 80s parlance, somebody who bad, somebody who real bad, Ronda Rousey, okay? Ronda Rousey, she bad, okay? Ronda Rousey said no, not the same thing. Fighting a man, not the same
I give you one better.
thing.
I give you one better. Serena Williams years ago. She was on like Jay Leno or one of those late night talk shows.
Yep.
And they asked her about playing against a man, and she said, "No way."
No. She said it's a completely different sport. She didn't just say no way. She said that men's tennis is a completely different sport. She said the serves are way faster. It's way more intense. She says she would lose every time. John McEnroe.
She did say she would lose every time. Yeah.
People started jumping on John McEnroe, and John McEnroe was like, she said it herself, because they were like, "Oh, why won't you say that Serena Williams is the greatest tennis player of all time?" All, these talking head journalists and morning show anchors getting on him, and he's like, if you look at the standings, she would lose to a college male, like an average college male tennis player. Serena Williams would lose to him.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Do you want to apologize?" He's like, No, I don't want to apologize.
Yeah. It's like the U.S. Olympic soccer team, women's soccer team lost to the high school boys team, right? And it wasn't close.
No.
The fastest woman in the 100 meter dash, it wouldn't be in like the top 6,000 fastest time of men. Like it's just biology does not lie.
Right.
And so when you let these boys pretend to be girls and play in girls' sports and girls' competitions, it's not fair to the girls.
It's not.
It is not fair to the girls who work. Is a reason we split sports by, and this is the thing too. This is the part that's frustrating. Sports are split by biological sex, not gender ideology.
No,
it's not the men's and women's based on gender ideology. It's based on biological sex, right? But they play loose with the words and they want to play loose with them, right? And so they're doing this stuff based on gender ideology, but that's not what sports are split based off of.
No.
Right? So on one hand, they will argue that gender and sex isn't the same thing. Then on the other hand, they try to act like it is, when it's convenient, and so, yeah, that's my whole beef with the way this thing is. Very dishonest.
Yes.
There's no way biological, and this is the thing, we don't have the issue the other way. There are no biological girls in boys sports.
Why don't you have a woman from the WNBA go into the NBA and start dunking on dudes and breaking the dudes' ankles? Why don't we see that?
I can't wait for the first 6'9" transgender dude to go to the WNBA. I can't wait.
You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? Like basically,
it's gonna be nasty.
You want to? I'm not a big gambler, but all I'm gonna say is you boy gonna be on FanDuel. You boy gonna be on FanDuel if that happens, because I know who's gonna win.
But no, you just bet the spread. Do they win by 40 or That's what the spread's. That's what you're gonna be betting against. But so I live in a college town. South Carolina women's basketball team, #1 team in the country. They were undefeated, like destroying everybody. And I went to the game. I'm like, okay, I'm finna see. I was so disappointed. Because it was still just girls basketball. The level of athleticism is just different. And it's not even just about dunking. It is everything, from the way they move. It's everything. I'm like,
everything.
It's just like watching a really good high school girls team. I've seen this before. This is nothing special, right? And they would just get ran, but yeah.
And listen. We're not trying to say that girls shouldn't play basketball. We're not trying to say that, okay? We're not trying to say that. All we're trying to say is it's different. It is massively different. I will say, when I see clips now, because now the Facebook and Instagram algorithms, because I've watched a couple of Caitlin Clark clips, and a couple of Angel Reese clips because everybody's clowning Angel Reese now. They think I want to see a bunch of WNBA clips. So I see them. I see them, and I'm looking at this, and I share your sentiment, Kev. I look at it, and I'm looking at the level of athleticism, and I'm like, yo, I'm not hating on them being able to play, but y'all, please do not ever pretend. Please do not ever pretend that this is entertaining at the same level as men's basketball.
So I know we gotta move on, but I'm gonna tell the story. So I took my daughters to a college basketball game because I'm like, hey, let's go, So I took my 3 daughters, and we left probably at the third quarter. And I asked them, I said, hey, so what do y'all think? And they was like, well, I mean, it was funny. I'm like, funny? They was like, yeah, they just kept falling for no reason. Like, they're like, nobody would touch them, and they would just be on the floor. They would just fall.
Wait, were they watching LeBron? They might have been watching LeBron.
No, you watch girls basketball, they hit the floor a lot for no reason. Like, it's just a different level of athleticism, and it's true, but I didn't expect them to notice that or pick up on that. But they were not entertained by the game itself. They were entertained because the girls kept falling. And so
dang. And I will say, watching Caitlin Clark play is actually somewhat entertaining because Caitlin Clark can hit a shot from the logo. Like that's
different. Yes.
Like that, yes. But like, the reasons you would watch if everybody played in the WNBA the way that Clark plays, I mean, it probably would be boring because you got to have different play styles, but it would be more entertaining. But when you have the Brittany Griners out there, and Chris asked, "What is Brittany Griner?" It's still a woman, still a woman. She tried to look like a man, but I'm
not going down that road.
She's still a woman, but I mean, why do we know who Brittany Griner is? Because she got locked up in Russia, not because she's good at basketball. I'm sorry. That's why we know who she is. Why do we know who Angel Reese is? Because she got beef with Caitlin Clark, not because she's good at basketball. Why do we know who Caitlin Clark is? She's actually good at basketball, but real talk, if she had to play against dudes, it's lights out. Yeah. It's lights out. Yeah. So it's different. That's the whole point. It's different. I can enjoy watching Caitlin Clark and watching her teammates because they can score too. All that. I can enjoy watching a clip of that. You're gonna catch me watching the whole WNBA game. Personal preference? Nah, sorry. I can't. Yeah. I can't.
Krista, I get the skepticism. I do. She's 6'9". She has a deep voice. I get it.
She might have taken some steroids because the steroids can change the voice. She might have taken some steroids.
But I remember her coming out of high school. I remember when she got to Baylor. She's been like that, man. So
word.
Yeah. So yeah, what's next, man? What's next? What
else we got here? You was getting into it with Anna Kasparian
again. Me and Anna, we have I'm gonna say a love-hate relationship. I think she just hates me.
Yeah. She'd probably be like, who is to be like, hey, you be going back and forth with Kevin Brigham. She's like, who's that?
Yeah, exactly. But
you get responses.
I know, but every time I get a response from her, it has something to do military-wise, right? And it's her take on this whole Israel-Gaza thing. And I'm being honest, she's drunk a lot of the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
She's well-meaning. She's big-hearted. She thinks all these bad things are happening. Israel's doing all these things. I'm like, you just don't understand the situation.
Yeah.
And so this was on Piers Morgan's post, and then she commented, and I said, can either you distinguish between military targets and civilian targets in Gaza? If someone fires an RPG from an apartment building, is that a military target or a civilian target? Right? I'm trying to lay out what the situation is, right? When you have a fighting force that doesn't wear uniforms, that doesn't separate their military from their civilian infrastructure, when you're going in there to fight them in an urban setting, you're gonna have civilian deaths. It's just unavoidable because you're fighting with civilians all around you. And that's the thing too. Everybody around you could be Hamas because they don't wear uniforms. They dress like regular people. So everybody around you is now a target. Right. And so, yeah, some people don't get shot who probably shouldn't have got shot. But you know what? I'm trying to live and go home.
Right.
Right. And so that's why I was like, so can y'all distinguish between what's a military target and what's a civilian target? It always kills me too whenever these human rights organizations come out and say how many civilians were killed. I'm like, how you know that person was a civilian?
Right. Yeah.
They don't wear uniforms.
Yeah, go into your response to her, where she responded, you said, where are you getting that information from?
Yeah.
Basically like, when she's talking about she could tell, can you where are you getting that information from? Remember when they claimed Israel bombed a hospital and 500 people were killed? And then the video came out and it showed that it was one of their own rockets, but up until that point, they thought that Israel just bombed.
Every news organization reported that Israel struck a hospital and 500 people got killed. Every news organization reported that.
Yep.
Until the video came out that it was actually a Hamas rocket that malfunctioned midair and turned back and landed. And this is the thing: it didn't even hit the hospital because the next day when we got the pictures came out from the destruction, it hit the parking lot. Right, so you had all the cars. You could tell where it hit too, because you had the burn marks and then the cars. You could just tell what the point was. It didn't even hit the hospital, but they reported 500 people got killed. They put out that kind of fake information all the time, right? But people like Anna, she buys it. She thinks she's getting it because it's coming from these news sources. I'm like, they put out fake information. Because the whole I was explaining to her, because we went back and forth a couple of times. I was explaining to her, civilian deaths benefit Hamas, not Israel, because the more civilians get killed, the more international pressure is put on Israel. That's why Hamas wants the civilian deaths, right? And so this idea that Israel is out here intentionally trying to kill all these civilians and commit a genocide, because she even said, she didn't say genocide, she said ethnic cleansing. I was like, Anna, there are 2 million Gazans in the 2 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. If there was an ethnic cleansing going on, the numbers would be much, much higher.
Yes.
Yes. There are 2 million people there. 40,000 people killed in a war ain't a whole lot.
Yeah.
It's just not. And if those numbers are even accurate, because we don't know, because those are the numbers that are given to us by Hamas. Or some other human rights organization that is pro-Hamas and pro-Palestinian and also feed the propaganda. Those organizations also allow Hamas to build tunnels under their hospitals and their buildings and all this type of stuff. Like, you can't believe anything that comes out of there from those people, right? And like I said, we have 2 incidents that we know that they reported something. We got video evidence that it completely wasn't true, and everything they said was a lie. So you really can't believe anything. And so it's not about being pro-Israel and anything like that. It's just like, look, you're being lied to, and you're letting this lies and this propaganda. So I just told her, like, look, be careful of what you listen to and just ask yourself, does it make sense? Does it make sense? Instead of believing some wild story that Palestinian civilians came out with their hand, or no, she said, Israel told the Palestinians, hey, go this route for safe passage. And then when the civilians walked that way for safe passage, Israel mowed them all down. I'm like, you believe that? You really believe that?
Right.
That benefits Israel none. Right? But when people have in their mind that you have this genocidal military that's out there to just kill and ethnic cleanse all the Palestinians, you believe stories like that. And it's like, that benefits Israel, doesn't benefit them at all. It puts more pressure on them. Right. And so I was like, just make sure it makes sense. And so, and then a bunch of other people started coming in. I just never responded to them because they didn't know what they were talking about either. And so I just left it alone. But yeah, me and Annika Sperry went back and forth again. Like I said, she probably has no idea who I am. So
Hey, you get responses though, man. You get responses. One thing I'll say is that this is another one of those woke mind virus things. The trans
it
thing is
is.
one of them. The Palestine thing is another woke mind virus
Yep.
thing, man.
And Piers Morgan is on it now. He's all on it now.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. He's completely flipped. Completely flipped.
No.
Yeah.
So that's what his tweet, because he tweeted something out, or he posted something, basically said, everybody who's basically coming after me on, what I said about the war, I'm smoking a Monte Cristo and drinking a Chateau
that was in
something.
reaction to that. Yeah. So he had a lawyer on, I forgot what her title is, but he was so rude to her. He was so rude. And everything that she said, he basically just called her. He talked over her, cut her off, and just basically kept calling her a liar. And it's like, are you gonna let me speak? And then she was like, tell me what I said that was not true. Right. And so he's bought into the whole thing. And Douglas Murray talked about it. He talked about that incident because he had her on as this lawyer, international lawyer, right? And he had her on with Dave Smith, who's a comedian, right? And Douglas Murray's issue is the comedian had more standing than the person who is actually knowledgeable in the field and in the issue. But Dave Smith's a comedian who writes some stuff online, and he gets to be the authority figure for Piers Morgan over this woman who has actual knowledge and experience in the area.
Man,
and so, because Dave Smith is all about everything we know is a lie, and it's all the Jews, it's all Israel, right? He's all on that. And so Piers Morgan is drinking the Kool-Aid, man. He's drinking the Kool-Aid that Israel is just lying to us. They're in there committing genocide and all of this type of stuff. And so, so Anna Conspirin, she kind of agreed with him, and that's why I challenged both of them on that point. Like, can y'all tell me what's a military target and what's a civilian target? Can you tell me?
Yeah.
They can't, and that's what people kept coming in. They can't tell you. They don't know.
The question is, do they even know that they're talking to somebody who served in the military for?
They probably don't.
What was it? Was it 22 years?
Yeah. And like I say, man, and it's not just serving in the military. It is being a part of urban environment conflict, and you're trying to distinguish between civilian and military, right?
Yeah.
And you got guys on the ground.
Yeah.
Right. Dog it.
That's wild, man. I just don't know. I don't know what you have to really be invested in your position to decide that you're not going to listen to reason from somebody who actually has who's actually been in the military, who has been involved in urban combat, who's asking you a question about this. You have to be pretty invested in your position to just completely dismiss that. Now, the question, I mean, did you tell her, does she know that? Because she might have just thought you just a rando on X,
No.
Yeah.
I don't throw that around.
So she didn't know. She didn't know. So she thinks she's just responding to some rando. And she's throwing hands with people on X. I think if she knew, that she might have had a different response. That doesn't excuse her response, but I do think that people do get tired. I see a lot of these public figures. They get tired of throwing hands with people on X, and they just start throwing out snarky responses.
Because that's what it was. It was completely dismissive to the question I asked, right? She just completely dismissed my question and just came with a snarky response, right? That's just
And I think that if she knew that you weren't speaking from a position of ignorance, like probably like the other 98% of people who respond to her, that she would have had a different response potentially. But I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt because she's come to her senses on some other things recently. And she's been reasonable on some things.
She can, but she's still emotional on this issue.
100%. So 100%. And it's woke mind virus. I don't understand how people can be so bleeding heart liberal on something that it's like when you take into account how this joint started, like how
Yeah.
can you wind up on that side? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. We have put the work in tonight.
We have, man. We have run for 3 hours straight. We have run for 3 hours, man. But it's been good though. It's been a good discussion. I'll say before we get into this, that merch still out there. Appreciate y'all. Maybe we need to get a picture of Brittany Griner in here wearing some of the swag to make this more inclusive.
No, because they're gonna say, is that a men's size or women's size? That's what they're gonna
say. Man, we out of pocket tonight. Oh my gosh. But yeah, y'all check out the merch. And
That's right, Matt. That's right.
Oh man, yeah, you can question. Y'all can make your own decisions about who's what in this picture. Y'all can make your own decisions as long as you buy that merch. Man,
but yeah. So I announced that this is our last Sunday show. We're going to be recording on dropping episodes on Thursdays now. So this upcoming Thursday will be our first Thursday show, and we've got a special guest. So we're bringing on Will Spencer from the Will Spencer podcast. Look him up. You just look him up on YouTube. You'll find the Will Spencer podcast. He wrote a great article this week or last week that I read it. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, this is a great article. Will you mind coming on? And he said, absolutely. And so he's going to come on to talk about the rise of what we call the woke right. And regardless of whether or not you agree with that term or like that term, the phenomenon in which it's describing is real. And he wrote a very long, in-depth article on it because he came out of it. He was in the red pill stuff. He was in the 4chan stuff. And he just wrote this really long, in-depth article. And I was like, man, we got to get this guy on because I know this is a topic you've been wanting to talk about for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
And like I say, I reached out to him. We connected on X. And he said he'd love to come on. So we're actually going to record it on Wednesday and then premiere it on Thursday, but we'll be here in the chat while it's premiering and talking and stuff. But yeah, we had to get him when he could record. So
yeah.
So that's what we got coming up, man. Any final thoughts on tonight?
Oh man, I think that I think the biggest thing is that we're gonna have to wind up get somebody to do a deep dive on the state of politics in California so that we don't get our heads busted by Krista. Man, Krista, she came out swinging. She came out swinging.
She did.
We love you. We love you, Krista.
Virtual hug.
Yes.
Make California great again. Absolutely.
Without the spending, though. Without the spending. We don't want another we don't want another one of these right here. We don't want another another Trump versus Elon. Oh man. And Chris says she wants some stats. No, we're gonna bring Chris on. We're gonna bring Chris. We're gonna make you bring the stats.
She said she sent me some. I felt my phone going off, so that's probably what I was seeing, what I was feeling.
I saw when we were in that discussion, and I saw you put your head down. I was like, man, he probably getting his phone blown up right now.
I was actually looking for like certain stats. Like I wanted to look up, okay, how much did Gavin Newsom win by? Stuff like that. I was just trying to okay, like I said, informed takes. I was like, I'm not informed right now. I know my feelings, but my feelings, could be wrong in terms of I haven't thought through some things. And so she brought some good points in terms of illegal immigration, fraud, no IDs, what really is the illegitimate voter count in these areas that is overtaking the red areas.
Mhm.
You know, so I think that's a valid question. You can have 20% fraud. You could. I mean, that's a lot of people.
It's
It's a lot of numbers.
It's a lot. Yeah, I mean, we're talking. They're not small numbers. That's like
No.
that would have to be tens of millions.
Well, I need to see how many people voted. Right.
That's
so
a
yes, a lot of people that live there,
point.
but how many people voted, and what's 20% of that?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Because if we're talking, like, you know, for instance, normally, you know, for a presidential election, I think that you know it hovers between 60 and 70 million people actually vote in a presidential election. It was an anomaly that we got 81 million people to vote in the election where Biden won in 2020. And you know, there a variety of reasons that people give for that. On both the right and, you know, on the right, there's not even agreement on.
No, it wasn't 81 million people voted. 81 million people voted for Biden.
Correct. Yeah. Because
it
was. I mean, there's a lot of those votes where they didn't even vote for anybody else. They
that
just
was a
straight
weird
up
thing.
voted for Biden, and that's mad weird. That's sus. I'm just gonna put that out there. That's sus.
It's sus, but I think I know how it happened. Because that's when you had the ballot harvesting, right? Because of the COVID laws.
Yeah.
And so you can get a third party to bring your ballot. And so what these people were doing was going door to door to these neighborhoods and these people who probably weren't even likely voters.
Oh, yeah.
And getting them to check that box and taking their vote, right? I think they didn't care about the rest of the ballot.
Yeah.
You know? And so, I mean, it's sus, but I think that's what they did. And that's why they were able to win, because they had a ground game of getting people who wouldn't vote to vote.
Yeah.
By just, hey, do you have 3 minutes of your time do you mind filling and voting for Biden here? And then we'll take it. And and that's what they did, man. That's what they did.
Yeah.
Completely sus.
Yeah. You got any final thoughts there, sir?
Man, no, man, this was a good episode. A lot of great discussion. We got the best chat in the world. Man, I say breakups are hard, divorces are hard, you know, but we knew this divorce was going to come eventually. I just hate how ugly it was in the public.
Yeah.
California will be made great again. We'll be made great again.
We're praying for it. We're praying for it.
Yeah. It might not be as It might not be as hopeless as we think. I need to do some homework, but it might not be as hopeless as we think. You know, it could be a purple state and we don't know it.
I would love to live in that world.
Yeah. We were on the break.
We were on the break. Come on. Yes. Oh man, so good. So good. Man.
Yes. Trump got to the altar, man. Said Rachel's name. he didn't say Emily. He didn't say Elon. He didn't say Elon.
He said BBL. That's what he said. He said BBL. I do. I love to spend money. I want to spend that money. That's your boy. That's your boy.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts from you, man? Any thoughts?
No, man. No, I'm gonna go eat some dinner is what I'm gonna do. That's my final thought.
Well, you go eat some dinner, man. Hey, we thank y'all for joining us. We really appreciate y'all. We got the best chat in the world, you know.
100%.
As Devin has put up on the screen already, go check out that merch store. Get your Informed Takes merch. Check out Devin at Podium Studios. And like, share, and put this out there. And continue to be with us as we explore all things political and geopolitics. But until next time, stay informed.
Stay informed, folks. Remember, Thursday night, not Sunday night.
Thursday night.
We'll see you Thursday night. Have a good one. This podcast was filmed at Podium Studios at Marietta Square. Grow your business with turnkey, professional quality podcasting, live streaming, and online events. Don't worry about editing. Don't worry about anything. Just come in and record. Learn more at thepodium.studio. Step up to the podium.